What is up, everybody? Welcome in. Welcome in. We are back with part 5, guys. And Lenny, to answer your question, this is an ongoing saga. This is an ongoing crisis in Elkhart, South Bend, Mishawaka area. Yeah, so there's going to be, we're only about, what do you think, about halfway through this situation, famously? A little over halfway. DCR, what's up?
At least halfway, I'd say so.
John Denicola, welcome in, sir. Oklahoma, Chopper. Struck by lightning, Teresa, welcome in. Good to see everybody. We'll let a few more people get in here, and then we'll start this up. I just give you a little teaser of what this area is like. So here, check this little short clip out, guys.
Whoa. Where's all that money I fucking loan you, mother?
Hey, man, I'm strict. Man, it's in me, man. Look, I done drunk it up, man. Look. And I ate it up and drunk it up.
You still gonna buy your pussy?
No, I get that on credit.
All right.
Yep. That's South Bend, but that's in the same area. But
a lot of the same actors in
yeah, but you got man, I don't know. I should have thought about this. I didn't know you were gonna show anything like a backstory or something. I was gonna say, play that ABC 57 with the Wolverines, where they're same people, same, you know what I mean? Give a little backstory. Warm us up for these meetings.
Let's see. ABC 57 on Wolverines. Let's see. Which one are we going to play here?
The Wolverines one.
The Wolverines. That's 13 minutes.
Okay. Well, it'll be a good one then.
All right. So this is, you guys, when we talk about the Wolverines, I'm sure you've heard us talk about it many, many times during the last series we did and this series. So this will give you a real good idea of what we're talking about. It's 13 minutes long. We're just going to let the whole thing play, and then we'll get back into our regularly scheduled program.
Yes, just so you know, it's in fair use, you guys.
Yep, this is fair use, guys. So let me go ahead and unmute this, share this tab, and here we go.
This is Keith Cooper, after accepting a multi-million-dollar settlement for his wrongful conviction in a 1996 armed robbery and attempted murder case in Elkhart. It's the largest wrongful conviction settlement in Indiana history, costing taxpayers $7.5 million. The cost for Cooper, more than 7 years in prison, away from his family, serving time for a crime he didn't commit. Now, Cooper's attorneys say he and others were targets of a rogue group of cops inside the Elkhart Police Department, dating back more than 30 years, known as the Wolverines. And Cooper's attorneys believe the actions of the Wolverines may soon make Elkhart, per capita, the exoneration capital of the U.S.
I was just told stories about it.
Issues as far as excessive force, brutality.
Everybody deserves justice.
They would lie, cheat, defraud.
And systemic misconduct existed.
Do we want to keep digging things up?
I always questioned everything.
I think I'm done.
Please raise your right hand.
This is former Elkhart Police Chief James J. Ivory testifying in a sworn deposition.
I do.
This testimony is the first known record of a former or current Elkhart City official admitting to the existence of an all-white group of rogue cops inside the Elkhart Police Department that targeted minority neighborhoods for years.
Did you come to learn of a group of officers in the Elkhart Police Department who call themselves the Wolverines?
Yes.
Members of the Wolverines have been implicated in violating the constitutional rights of citizens in the Elkhart community, and predominantly citizens of color.
Elliot Slosser is an attorney who has investigated wrongful conviction cases in Elkhart for nearly 15 years. He's part of the Notre Dame Exoneration Justice Clinic, which uncovered the existence of the Wolverines.
Should people question what law enforcement have done in Elkhart over the past 3 decades? Of course.
You can hear him in this deposition questioning the former police chief.
The Elkhart Police Department by 1990 had a reputation for brutality against people of color. Is that fair?
Yes.
This deposition is part of recent legal action to overturn the murder conviction of Iris Seabolt, who was investigated by members of the Wolverines. Court filings in the Seabolt case describe the Wolverines as a white supremacist group targeting people of color in South Central Elkhart in the 90s.
Some of the members used the N-word when they didn't know I was around. Of course, as soon as they saw me when I walked around the corner, the conversation ceased.
Keith Cooper was put in jail by Steve Rizzuto, identified by at least one former Elkhart police officer as a Wolverine, according to court records. Cooper was sentenced to 40 years in prison, convicted for a 1996 robbery where a teenager was shot. Cooper's attorneys accused Rizzuto of manipulating witnesses with suggestive lineups, withholding evidence which could have kept Cooper out of prison, and deliberately creating false evidence and witness statements. Rizzuto later resigned from the Elkhart Police Department following an internal investigation finding Rizzuto had paid informants for sexual acts. He died by suicide shortly after learning about the Cooper case being reopened.
Nobody was like, hey, let's go look into those cases and see if the people who are still in prison every day should really have a shot at justice.
Keith Cooper spent more than 7 years in prison before new DNA evidence and eyewitness testimony from the victim saying he didn't commit the crime led to his release. Governor Eric Holcomb granted a pardon in 2017. Then, last month, the city of Elkhart paid an historic $7.5 million wrongful conviction settlement, the largest in Indiana history, according to the University of Michigan Law School Exoneration Registry. The second suspect in the case, Chris Parrish, saw his attempted murder and robbery conviction dismissed because of new DNA evidence and testimony, which led to a $4.9 million payout after a jury had found Rizzuto deprived his constitutional right to a fair trial. At least 9 former Elkhart police officers have been implicated as Wolverines in recent court filings.
The question shouldn't just be who was a part of it and what did they do? Another question should be who knew about it? Why didn't they stop it?
During his deposition, former Elkhart Police Chief J.J. Ivory identified 3 men he knew as Wolverines. Bruce Davidson, a Fraternal Order of Police president who went on to rob 24 banks through 11 states, landing him on the FBI's most wanted list. Steve Ambrose, an officer involved in the 1995 killing of Derek Connor, which led to citywide protests. And Ed Winbigler, who went on to become the Elkhart Chief of Police.
They would all stick together, and regardless on whatever the issue might be, made me feel they would lie, cheat, defraud, or whatever it took to uphold their cause.
When Ivory took over as chief in 1990, he had a mission to change the culture inside the Elkhart Police Department.
Issues as far as excessive force, brutality, because of the Wolverines and the various divisions within the department, it was necessary for me to know who I could trust, who I couldn't trust, and to make sure that they were, in fact, abiding by our rules.
People wrote in to the Elkhart Truth, accusing all
Give me just a second, guys. I screwed up.
Over the years, the Elkhart Police Department has kind of taken it on the chin a few times.
Chris Seymour took over as chief in 2020 under similar circumstances as Ivory, tasked with changing the culture of the Elkhart Police Department.
Now I looked at it as an opportunity to steer the boat in not so calm waters.
Seymour became chief after EPD faced a 97-page report from the Police Executive Research Forum, commissioned as a response to this video. 2 Elkhart police officers beating a man handcuffed to a chair. The incident led to then Elkhart Police Chief Ed Windbigler to resign. Windbigler, one of the alleged members of the Wolverines, identified by J.J. Ivory, a group Seymour says he never encountered in more than 2 decades with the Elkhart Police Department.
Had you ever heard about it?
I'd heard stories.
What'd you hear?
Same thing you're saying. So, yeah, we'll stay away from that one.
Protect and serve shouldn't be just a slogan. It should be something that they can feel.
Elkhart Mayor Rod Robertson admits changing the culture inside the department and building trust with the community is no small task.
When you did hear about an officer or any of the police department being heavy-handed in one way, shape, or form, it reverberated inside of the community.
The department followed suggestions from the PERF report to update its use of force. Every officer is now outfitted with body cameras and squad car cameras, and EPD has created an online reporting system for the public. The stats suggest there has been significant progress. According to the Elkhart Police Department, criminal arrests in 2021 jumped 46% from the year prior, while use of force dropped, and complaints on officers went down by nearly a third.
There's no finish line. It's an ongoing process for us. We're constantly evaluating and reevaluating everything that we do.
This new administration with the mayor and Chief Seymour is a bright light in an otherwise dark system of injustice. And I hope that the chief and the mayor continue taking efforts to fix things moving forward.
But Chief Seymour didn't appreciate the line of questioning regarding the Wolverines.
Do we want to keep, digging things up, or do we want to acknowledge that maybe mistakes were made or procedures were not in place to effectively do things? And now we have them in place and we're doing things what we think is right.
He made it clear past misconduct isn't something he's focused on.
Yeah, I think I'm done.
Well, and just to clarify, I mean, you're saying it's past, but Cooper was in jail up until
I don't want to live in the past. Okay, I can't answer for what people did 30 plus years ago.
So what is being done today for people put in prison by members of the Wolverines? And if there was a pattern of misconduct, what is being done to investigate possible wrongful convictions for people still sitting in prison? Nothing.
Do you believe that the city should review any cases involving officers that were implicated in potential misconduct?
Not my job.
The city, county, and Elkhart Police Department all said they will not reopen cases or review past convictions that involved officers responsible for any of Elkhart's growing list of wrongful convictions. Elliot Slosser wants to see an independent prosecutor appointed to review potential cases of past misconduct, specifically involving members of the Wolverines.
We're not counting on a system that has protected itself for 30 years to somehow say, oh, we're going to do things the right way and look backwards.
Everybody deserves justice. That's what I would tell you. and nobody deserves to have their character assassinated because they made mistakes or whatever. They answer for their individual stuff, and that's nobody else's to answer for. I don't have a time machine. I can't go back and fix all this.
My job is to move forward. My job is to make sure that the administration that I have and the police chief that I have is applying the law appropriately. We will be there to assist whatever we are asked to assist in, but it's not our job and nor my administration to investigate past administrations or past police chiefs or any of those things. It's not my job.
That's the mantra of Elkhart, Indiana. Not my job.
Not his job to put a police chief in charge to solve all these unsolved murders that these wrongful convictions ended up creating. And
It's not their job to do their jobs correctly and do the jobs the way they're supposed to by investigating completely.
Due diligence.
Yeah, there's no due diligence in Elkhart, Indiana, or South Bend or Mishawaka. The whole area is all connected, and you're seeing it just by these past few panels that we've had. I did another series that ties directly into what we're seeing here. So you guys be your own judge, but I'm telling you, it's all connected. And if it's happening in this area,
that chief said he didn't want to go back 30 years, but all them people that were wrongfully convicted sure the hell do. The families that don't have any answers sure the hell do.
absolutely. You know, the people committing the actual crimes against we the people are the only ones that don't want to revisit this and get to the bottom of the core issue.
Yeah.
They just want to perpetuate the ongoing BS and just, you know, sweep it under the rug. Hopefully it'll go away. Well, guess what? We're not going to let it go away. We're going to keep showing this shit, and we're going to keep showing it, and we're going to keep digging in. So, last panel we were going over Detective, what was his name?
Brandon Roundtree.
Roundtree. There we go. Brandon Roundtree. And he didn't remember anything really, unless it benefited him. So I did back it up just a little bit to kind of get back into what he was saying, but we're going to finish this video off, which is about another 40 minutes or so. And then we have actually Joy Phillips coming to the stand next. So let's get right into it.
Just brief. Ultimately, is it fair to say that Detective Phillips was never disciplined for refusing to write a search warrant, correct?
Correct.
And is it fair to say that Detective Phillips was not willing to learn the facts of the case so that she could write a search warrant?
Correct.
And that was the difference between her and Ronnie Barron and Detective Payne, correct?
Correct.
And Ronnie Barron and Detective Joshua Payne ultimately did begin writing the search warrant, correct?
Correct.
So Detective Phillips was the only detective who refused to write a search warrant, correct?
Correct.
I don't have any further questions.
Sergeant, you ordered Detective Phillips to write the search warrant, didn't you?
Me saying I need you to write a search warrant, yes, that would be ordering somebody to write it.
Were the exact words you used, "You will write the search warrant"?
I didn't demand her. I didn't say you will write the search warrant. I said I need you to write a search warrant because you were the primary officer on call that day.
And that was a direct order.
Yes.
And you expected her to write the search warrant immediately.
Not immediately.
Or that day.
That day or the next day, how long it ever took for her to obtain the factual elements that she needed for the search warrant.
But you didn't explain to her that she could take the time she needed to investigate the case further and develop more facts establishing probable cause, did you?
Detective Phillips is a 20-year veteran officer. Detective Phillips has been back in CID longer than I have. I think Detective Phillips understood that she had an amount of time to get the information that is needed to obtain the search warrant. I'm pretty sure that Detective Phillips also understood that with me asking her to type the search warrant, that she had an ample opportunity to do what she needed to do to get the information, regardless if it was done that day or the next day. When I asked her, it wasn't meant do it right away.
You didn't explain that to her, did you?
I mean, common ground with her being a veteran, I assumed she would have known that.
You assumed, you didn't tell her.
Well, she's done many search warrants back in the Elkhart Police Department, back in CID, so it's no different. I don't understand why that situation would have been different.
You simply ordered her to write the search warrant.
Yes.
On that day.
Sir, on July 14th, I asked Detective Phillips to write a search warrant.
No further questions.
No further questions.
We call for Sergeant Roundtree.
None here.
We do not need the sergeant further.
Sergeant Roundtree, then you're free to go. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. Don't discuss your testimony with anyone other than the lawyers. And if anybody else tries to talk to you about what you've said in here, let the commission know right away, please.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I'll reiterate, when I highlight articles and information for the chat for you guys, that's it's all relevant to kind of what's going on screen. So guys, please just check out the links that I'm highlighting here. It's all just continued information about what's going on. Give it just a few seconds here to get caught up. That I don't know, John. There's the Elkhart Police saga that we were kind of watching on. There's part 1. You guys can go get further information and touch up further on it. Keep easy. What's up? Yeah, that is a name, huh? Hunter Epstein? What's the question for? Central Iowa? It is quite.
Ranky? You swear or affirm that the testimony you give here will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. Hold off until we make sure that Commissioner Mays is.
Are you with us, Gene?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your full name for the record?
David Eric Henke, Henke.
You reside here in Elkhart?
I reside 1752 Crabtree in the 3rd District, in which I represent.
So you're a member of the Elkhart City Council?
I am, sir.
As a member of the City Council,
Puzzled on the subpoena. What subpoena are you talking about? The one that the cop refused to show up on, or I mean, we showed all this on last few streams, so I'm sorry if you there's just been a lot of information last four lives concerning subpoenas and everything else. I'm really trying not to stop too much, but at the same time we want to stop and answer questions too. So I really don't know. One of the officers, I do believe it was a sergeant. Was it not correct?
Yes. Oh, what are you talking about with the sergeant?
The cop that refused to respond to the subpoena, he didn't show up.
Yeah, he they said he didn't get the subpoena. As
Yeah.
you know, the chief also got a subpoena, didn't show up either.
All right.
So
So yeah, sorry about that, Central Iowa. It's just a lot of information to go back over and review and kind of summarize. So, a cop said he didn't get the subpoena. The defense, Joy Phillips' attorney, said they had record of it. It's just a bunch of bullshit all the way around, really.
and then they called him in. Roundtree
Yeah.
said he didn't. They said Roundtree didn't get a subpoena. The city attorney
Yeah,
said
the
he
last
did.
guy. Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff to go back over, and I apologize, but I want to get through this. We're only about halfway through on episode 5 here. We're only about halfway through all the footage that we have, so we just want to keep going with it. Here we go.
you of course take interest in the management of the police department.
In many respects, yes.
And as part of your duties as a city councilman, do you attend proceedings like this, the Police Merit Commission?
I do in person or online.
And also sometimes the Board of Safety hearings?
I do.
And generally, do you keep track of the management of the police department?
I have questions of chiefs and I always confer with them. I do get conference as well from several members of the police department in each capacity, each rank.
Have you been following these proceedings?
I have.
Okay. Have you attended this hearing every day that it has taken place?
Yes, sir.
Which is just today and yesterday. Okay.
Yes.
Have you observed the testimony of both sides?
I have.
Have you heard testimony that you, in the course of these proceedings, that you believe to be false or misleading?
Objection. Foundation.
I'm going to, perhaps the best way to deal with that, Your Honor, is to play the video of the testimony. We're going, IT, we would appreciate it if you would play Phillips Exhibit 14.
Can we first talk, what are we about to hear?
This is video you showed of Detective Casey Clays.
I showed video of Detective Kate. Oh, okay. His professional standards interview?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
This will be unredacted.
It's finicky. Yeah, I know it. Ours back there are the same way. Touch it about 5 times before it started. Looks good. All right, it's December 6th. We're in the Office of Professional Standards talking with Detective Clays. How long have you worked here at EPD?
Over.
All right. What is your current assignment?
I am a detective.
All right. How long have you been a detective?
About.
Okay. I'm surprised it's only been 6 years.
I know.
It seems a lot longer.
Yeah.
So I put you down here today to talk about a burglary investigation that started on July 12th of this year. It was at the Beach 3 up on Beardsley. Are you familiar with that investigation?
Yes.
Parts of it?
Parts of it, yeah.
Okay. So during the course of that investigation, were you ordered by Sergeant Roundtree to write a search warrant? No. Okay. Were you asked by Sergeant Roundtree to write a search warrant?
So I wasn't asked to write a search warrant.
Okay.
Typically back in CID, the majority of the detectives will come to me for search warrant stuff because it's one of the things I specialize in. So from what I understand, the night before there was some kind of incident of the burglary at Bees 3s. Mm-hmm. So the next morning, Roundtree had called me and Ronnie over to his office, and he said, "Hey, this is kind of what happened last night." Gave me some details about it. He said, "We'd like to get a search warrant for," I think it was the car at the time, in the trunk, because they were able to clear the trunk. And Roundtree said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Just based on the information that you've told me," because I didn't know anything about the investigation prior to. I said, "You don't have enough. I'm not saying there's not more out there, but based on just what you told me, you don't have enough to get into the car." I said, "We can dig a little bit deeper. Has there been any interviews done? Has there anything like that where we can get more information?" He said, at some point, he said Jason Ray had done an interview and got some pretty good information, but he didn't know all the details about it. I said, "Well, if we can get that interview and there's some more tying the car to it, we may be able to get into it. I'm sure we will eventually, but right now, what you're telling me, you don't have enough." And so I said, the search warrant, one of the parts of the search warrant says that under the penalties of perjury, I believe there's probable cause. And at that point, I didn't believe there was probable cause in the car. So I said, if you want me to do this, we'll dive into it and we'll do it. And he said, "Okay, well, let me get some details and I'll let you know." I said, "Okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem. I just need to know more about it to be able to write a warrant for this." So that's kind of where I wouldn't say he was asking me to write a warrant. I felt more like he was asking me, do we have enough to get into the car?
Okay.
So,
would it be fair to say you felt he was kind of asking for your professional opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of guys do back there. Supervisors down to detectives will come to me quite often. One of the things that I focus on in my career is search warrants. I've written a lot of them. I stay up on the case law that applies to search warrants. My personal life, my wife is a prosecutor, so I learn a lot from her on what needs to be there and what needs to be in a search warrant for it to make it not only pass the on-call prosecutor and the on-call judge, but if a suppression issue came up. So I try to really focus on that stuff to help other guys out. I've written search warrants for other people multiple times, and obviously I've written now a couple hundred at least.
So, now, correct me if I'm wrong. So, and what you were saying based on that, I hear that. So you were willing to actually take part and help with this search warrant. You just wanted to get some more information.
Absolutely. Okay. At that time, I didn't believe there was enough probable cause to write it, but absolutely, I've written numerous search warrants for people, and I told Roundtree, "I'll write it. We just need to get more information."
Okay. And so you weren't refusing?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I've never refused to write, even if I don't know anything about the case. I've never refused to write a search warrant for somebody.
Okay. Were you able to eventually obtain enough information, or did you not stick with that part of it long enough? Or
basically, from that point, I wasn't asked much more about helping out with the investigation. We had had discussions about whose case this was, who it was going to be assigned to. We talked about how it was a I work on major violent crime cases. We talked about how it wasn't a major violent crime. This was going to end up going to one of our property crime guys, and that we could slow it down a little bit, and whoever was going to get assigned the case could write it, or somebody else could write it.
Okay. And then that's really, the part of that investigation I really wanted to ask about was the search warrant, because there were some allegations that you refused to draft a search warrant. Can you think of any reason why someone would say you refused to write that search warrant?
I don't know, because I know I've written search warrants for the majority of people.
Sure.
Whether I was helping them in their investigation or I didn't know anything about their investigation, I've helped them out completing the search warrant for them, or sitting down.
Does anybody see a problem with that? Writing a search warrant for something that you're not familiar with? It seems like a huge issue to me. I don't know. Let's just keep going. Just wanted to point that out. Guy's writing search warrants for cases that he's not familiar with. He knows nothing about. Weird.
Down with them and typing it out, or them sending me what they had and me kind of tweaking what they had to get the right legal verbiage in there that needed to be in there.
Okay. So we go back into October. Were you at the Board of Public Safety hearing?
Yes.
For the grievance for Detective Phillips?
That's correct.
All right. Do you feel Detective Phillips was dishonest at any point during the hearing?
Absolutely.
Do you feel that Detective Phillips misrepresented?
I'll tell you how Central Iowa audits, they're all connected. It's all a big club, and we're not invited. There you go. There you go.
And facts at any point during that hearing?
Yes. Both on a professional and personal level.
Okay. And how do you feel about that?
Angry. I was extremely angry.
Why?
First of all, professionally, my integrity has never been questioned. I do, since day one of this career, I have done everything legal and the way it's supposed to be. And I have continued to further my knowledge in this job. Every position I've held, every rank, to be more well-rounded and understand up-to-date case law and new laws and things like that. And of course, and especially a search warrant, for somebody to say that I would refuse to do one is asinine. I would never refuse to do one. And then Detective Phillips went on to say that my wife had told her that Dustin Young was a Brady officer, is a complete lie. And I actually remember we were sitting at Mayberry having lunch, and there were quite a few of us detectives together, and Detective Phillips was one of them. And Detective Phillips had been on this rant about how Sergeant Young was a Brady officer. So she asked my wife, because my wife's at the prosecutor's office, and my wife adamantly told her, no, he is not a Brady officer. That actually, Sergeant Young is someone that my wife loves to have testify in court because of how well he testifies and how well he relates to a jury. And that there's never been a mention of him being a Brady officer. And so when she said that at a public forum, personally pissed me off, because I brought her question in. Her boss was there, Vicki Becker, who now is hearing a lie from Joy about something my wife said, and so to say I was livid is an understatement.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's talk a little bit about CID being back there in the bureau.
Yep.
You feel that you're targeted by CID?
No.
The relevant portions are over. We don't.
You feel that if you
more of this. Councilman Hinkie, did you witness this video being played yesterday?
I did.
Or rather, did you witness a portion of it being played.
Yes, sir.
In the course of observing that evidence put on by the city, did you observe anything that you felt to be false or misleading?
I did.
Could you explain what that was?
I believe Detective Clays said he was never questioned in his career and that his history, personal story as a police officer was impeccable without question. And I frankly have issues with that statement.
Could you explain what facts lead you to believe that that statement might be false or misleading?
Yes, there are plenty of accusations and different stories about Officer Clays throughout the department. I can't speak to those as I was not first person. However,
I'm going to object then if the witness has no personal knowledge.
I have two stories that I do have personal knowledge on.
Mr. Hankey, could you tell the court what information you have that you heard with your own ears or saw with your own eyes?
I'm going to object on the basis that this is also impermissible character evidence.
Well, one actually happened
you're
to,
right.
I'm sorry, one actually happened to my own family.
Councilman.
What's the purpose of the testimony?
Your Honor, this is impeachment testimony and will also go to selectivity of enforcement. I think
Impeachment of whom?
Those who testified against Joy Phillips, in particularly the evidence that the city provided through Casey Clays. Councilman, you may continue. Again, please limit your testimony to things that you've seen with your own eyes and heard with your own ears.
Gladly. Some time ago, Officer Clays and his wife were living in my neighborhood, East Lake Estates. My wife was jogging past their home on the opposite side of the street. Detective Clays was off duty and blowing leaves, but blowing his large dog in the face, making it very excitable. And the dog saw my wife, took off after her, bit her on the leg, took her to the ground. Neither Detective Clays nor his wife went over to assist my wife, nor did they have any involvement besides calling the dog back and going on with their duties. At that point, my wife made it home on her own, told me about the incident. I called into the police department right away. And then Mrs. Clays came to our doorstep with another officer, an on-duty officer. And then she apologized after hearing whose wife that was. We talked about it. My wife had to seek medical attention and had not rabies, but she was on antibiotics and had to have the wounds closed. We had conversations with then Chief Seymour. Chief Seymour assured us that the officer would be disciplined, that they would follow the rules. And with that in mind, we decided not to pursue action against the city or against the Clays. Later hearing, though, that Officer Clays was not disciplined, and in fact, having been on council when the vicious dog, vicious animal ordinance was passed, their animal was never taken to the shelter, was never enclosed further, was seen in their yard, unleashed, uncontained, even after that incident. And I was very upset with that, as was my wife. And we had called back to Chief Seymour, who again assured us that Casey Clays was in his words, subpar detective and would be disciplined and demoted. That did not happen. So my question to him was, why did we not follow the law, and why does he get a pass on these actions? And I question, is it because his wife is a part of the prosecutor's office, and he denied that that was the occurrence. Later, because Casey Clay's name came up, maybe 5 to 6 months ago, in regards to a constituent having a video of Casey Clay's having an open alcohol container in his city-owned squad car. And I started an inquiry to...
Objection, Foundation.
Sir, is this a information brought to you by a constituent?
It is, and it was substantiated by both
Who?
chiefs.
You may
Continue.
answer. You may answer, sir. if
It
you're-
was substantiated as having been that Casey Clay's admitted and internal action was taken, and that we should put it to rest. So I left it at that, not knowing again any internal action was actually taken. I then had coffee with now Police Chief Milanese, and we went over this very topic, and he asked why I was pressing that button. And my point to it was, it just appears as though this officer is getting a pass based on the relationship his wife has with the prosecutor's office, number one. But number two, I was a part of this council when we had the Craig DeVault study done on the Elkhart Police Department, and which cost the taxpayers $73,000. And my interest was that we were falling into the same problems as outlined in that case of officers being promoted to sergeant without training, political appointments.
Objection.
Morale issues.
Basis. What's the foundation?
My point was, it's very well outlined in a third-party, high-profile study called the Craig DeVault case.
Sir, was this study provided to you in the course of your duties as a city councilman?
It was.
And the study was actually commissioned by the city?
It was.
And paid for by the city council?
Paid for by taxpayers of the city of Elkhart.
And what's the, I'm going to object on the basis of relevance to this case.
This goes to, again, selective enforcement, Your Honor. Joy Phillips has consistently argued that there's policies and rules of the police department are not fairly and evenly enforced, that she has been singled out and indeed charged with termination for violations far less serious than actions of other officers that have received no discipline at all, and in fact, where accusations were not even investigated.
Objections overruled.
And I would refer anyone that's interested into pages 79 to the end in regards to conclusions and recommendations of Deborah Daniels, the chief investigator.
Put a 1 in the chat if you can't wait to see Joy Phillips take the stand up here, testify. Who wants to see that tonight? We'll let this video play while y'all decide.
What does that state, sir?
Most importantly, that there was, just as you stated, inconsistent discipline, inconsistent communication, political appointments, and some retribution for past relationships. As part of the overall process, I did notice that the word...
Sir, may I just ask for clarification? By retribution for past relationships, do you mean retribution against citizens who complained about misconduct or officers who complained about misconduct?
It would have been officers within the department and the complaints driven. It specifically states not all were investigated, they were selective. That discipline was an inconsistent process, not well known, not well practiced. They suggested, and at that time, Chief Snyder agreed to have a chief's board made up of 10 people, community people that would help understand the internal process. The report also suggested computer applications that would help in tracking and trending. And it all led to, the bottom line was a lack of transparency, which was harming internal morale of the department.
Thank you for that clarification, Councilman. If you could continue where you were.
I could go on for some time, but I would rather just ask, again, the difference of how we are, and again, my interest today was one of process. I believe this commission remembers when I came forward just asking for a hearing. I did not know Joy Phillips, never met her before. Before I was asked by other officers to say, could you help us? She's being pushed out without a hearing and asked me to get involved. I came before you and pretty well begged for a hearing, just to say, I don't know who's right, who's wrong, but the process is the process. Everyone deserves to be heard. And what I was told along the way, it just wasn't happening. And looking at minutes, it didn't happen. In fact, some felt it too complicated to even look into. And that's what we find here. It's too complicated, but it's yet another story in our unfortunate history that we are trying to correct. Transparency being the biggest ticket that brings back trust and validation. So that's my primary interest, having been through this before on a larger scale, looking at the police department and wondering what was happening. The Daniels report talks about needing sincere leadership. And they felt as though at that time, Chief Snyder had the capability of providing it, but it wasn't unilateral, meaning he felt like the whole burden was on his shoulders. He didn't have support. And that's written in the report as well. I know this report because I'm trying to get this police department back where it should be, to those recommended by the people I serve, the 3rd District, as well as the city of the whole. But to do that, I need to see that rule, that effect, that cost of report implemented in the areas of correction. And this action here reminds me of what we were trying to get away from. And that's the purpose of my statements today.
Thank you, Councilman. No further questions.
Isn't it true that you never personally witnessed the dog incident with your wife?
I was able to see her wounds. I was able to call the ambulance. I talked to Chief Seymour, who was already aware of the incident before I called him. No, I was not on the ground with her. I was not in front of Casey Clay's home when the incident occurred. If you'd like to see the scars on her leg, though, I can have her come.
Isn't it true that the study you talked about was done before former Chief Seymour became chief?
It could have, I don't know the exact, because Chief Seymour was either, because that's the person I called, so that would have been Chief Seymour, so he had to be a leader in some regard.
Isn't it true he became chief after the completion of the study and implemented the study?
Could have been. He and I were on very good speaking terms, and I had him on speed dial, which I still do, as well as Chief Melanese. That's the call I made. But in that regard, by the way, he had to have been chief in our latter conversations because he had the ability to say that Casey Clays was a subpar detective and he had planned to demote him.
Isn't it?
That's a fact, and that was on the phone with me.
isn't it true that you resent the fact that Chief Seymour didn't do anything about Casey Clays?
Say that again, please.
Do you resent the fact that Chief Seymour didn't do what you wanted him to with Casey Clays?
I resent the fact that Chief Seymour guaranteed to my wife and I that he was taking action in which he did not.
I don't have any more questions.
Councilman, you testified earlier that one of your main concerns about the police department and its disciplinary process was the lack of transparency.
Correct.
Is part of the transparency the broadcast of proceedings like this?
Yes, I totally am a believer in open door law, which we all are. I believe the constituents who pay for the services of the city, rely on the police department for public safety, should be fully aware of where their money goes and how safe they are based on interactions such as this.
I'm going to play some more audio for you.
It's going to be the disc, the second disc.
I'm gonna, this is beyond the scope. I'm gonna object at this point.
It's beyond the scope.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll then.
How do they know if it's beyond the scope if they haven't seen it? That's
Exactly.
that's speculative.
Yeah. 4
Let's
hours.
finish this. Let's finish this one up real quick, and then, since a lot of you want to see it, we're going to get to Joy Phillips.
Sir, no. No further questions. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Hankey. Appreciate your help here today.
Your Honor, the only witness we have left is Joy Phillips, whose testimony.
So that brings us to this.
Yes, sir.
All right. Without further ado, I bring you Joy Phillips to the stand.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give here will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Joy, could you please state your full name for the record?
Joy Rochelle Phillips.
Where do you reside?
I'm sorry, where do I reside?
Yes, not the exact address.
In
just-
Granger, Indiana.
And how are you employed?
I am employed as an officer at the Elkhart City Police Department.
How long have you, just a few personal facts. Are you married?
I am.
Do you have children?
I do.
How many?
I have 2 children.
Okay. Joy, where did you go to school?
I went to LaPorte High School and then I went to IUSB.
What did you study at IUSB?
Criminal justice.
Okay. How long have you been in law enforcement?
Over 24 years.
Where did you start your law enforcement career?
At the South Bend Police Department.
When did you come to the Elkhart Police Department?
My hire date is July 26 of 2016.
When you arrived, what were your duties at Elkhart?
I was a patrol officer assigned to the midnight shift.
Did you stay in that assignment?
No.
What assignment did you move to?
I moved to CID, the Criminal Investigative Division, the Detective Bureau.
Okay. When did that happen?
September of 2017.
So, Joy, I'd like to ask you some questions about the charges that have been brought against you. Oh, pardon. Oh, okay. Did you receive disciplinary charges in 2023?
I did.
Okay. Did those come in the form of a letter from the chief?
Yes, I believe it was from the chief.
Okay. And that letter was in turn prompted by a letter from someone else?
Correct.
Who was that and how did that happen?
Vicki Becker, the prosecutor of Elkhart County, and she said that she had been a witness to the Board of Public Safety hearing proceedings that were October 11th and October 25th of 2022.
And what did then Chief Seymour do shortly after receiving that letter?
He placed me on paid administrative leave.
And did he subsequently prefer charges against you before this commission?
Correct.
Okay. And sometime after that, were those charges amended?
Yes, they were.
To the best of your knowledge, are those charges contained in Chief's Exhibit 2?
I don't know what that exact reference is, but if it's the amended letter that was given to me in July 24th, 2023, then yes.
I'm going to go through these charges and give you the opportunity to respond to the allegations against you.
Okay.
The first charge, and I'm reading from Chief's Exhibit 2, states that during the Board of Safety hearings, Captain Denise Hauser's sworn testimony contradicted your statements that she told you she was made or told to write you up.
Correct.
Could you describe the circumstances that led you to make that statement at the Board of Safety hearing?
Yes. On August 4th, I was brought in by Captain, at the time, Captain Andy Whitmire. He was my captain. And he and Captain Travis Hamlin had me come into a closed door meeting in Captain Andy Whitmire's office. With that, he handed me a letter. Captain Whitmire handed me a letter and advised that it was to face a captain review board, August 11th, 2022. And I had no idea that I had done anything wrong or had been brought up on any kind of charges or allegations. So I asked him what happened and what I did. And he said that I managed to upset 2 supervisors basically on the same day. And I explained to him that generally I know when I make somebody angry and that I hadn't been counseled. No one had told me that I had done anything wrong. So I didn't understand why I was getting this letter of a captain review board. And he stated that he would try to find out what the complaints were. And I explained to him that being the captain, he should know what they are because they're fielded through him first. It's a chain of command. And he stated that the best of his knowledge, he thought, or he had heard that I offended Sergeant Hauser, Denise Hauser. And I couldn't understand why or how I offended Sergeant Denise Hauser. So upon leaving his office, I went to her office and I said, hey, I just got this captain review board letter and I'm completely baffled. I don't know what I did to offend you. And I wanted to say, I'm sorry. And she said, yeah, I know. They told me to write you up. And I'm thinking to myself, why did they tell you to write me up? I haven't done anything. I wasn't offensive to you. I didn't think I was. You didn't say anything to me at the moment that you felt offended. So I didn't understand. I went to my office, completely baffled. And I'll be honest with you, gentlemen, I wasn't recording at the time because I had been mandated to force mediation with a detective named Ryan Weir. And I was under the impression that it was water under a bridge, that they weren't going to listen to my complaints and they weren't going to take heed in anything that I had said. So I figured that I didn't have any retribution to be facing anymore because it was a clean slate. So the next day, the second day, is when I went back to her office, and this time now I am recording. And I explained to her that I understand that she can't talk to me about it because it is a captain review board. But I just didn't understand how I offended her. And she explained to me that she was sorry, that she said that she was going to come and talk to me about it, but they told her not to tell me. And then she proceeded to tell me that the thing with her was minor and that it was supposed to be a supervisor counseling only. And with that.
May I interrupt you?
Yes, sir.
The acoustics in this room are not the best, and you're speaking very fast.
I'm sorry.
If you could slow the pace just a little bit.
I will do my best. So what I wanted the chance to explain to you gentlemen is that there's a past prior to all of this. So this occurring, it wasn't shocking to the effect that I hadn't already been subjected to behavior like this. The issue I had was that it came from Denise, whom I hadn't had any issues with. And that was surprising to me, being another female officer. So if we could, I'd like to play audio. It's my exhibit number 51. And if you could cue it up to the 8-minute mark to 1425, please. This is substance. And what you're going to hear is a captain review board that I was subjected to on February 19th of 2021, where I am brought before the captain review board. I was given a day notice that I was to face this captain review board. And I'm not going to have you listen to my prepared letter because it's long, but I'm going to have you listen to the end of it, where I was never notified as to the reason why I was being brought before a captain review board. I was never told what I had done, what offenses I had committed. And this is my audio of me recording them, of them still not telling me, the captains, and one of which is the new chief of police. So he sat in this meeting and he listened to them not tell me what I was being accused of, and then refusing to tell me even after the fact. And you will hear the audio. But they still have laundry facilities there. So anyway, all right, I better get we could literally stay here all day. You can start at minute 8. Sorry. It's all right. If you need this written out, the report that I read off of is in the Captain Review Board exhibits, and that should be in, I can get you the number in a minute, but all the reports that I've ever written to any Captain Review Board that I have physically attended or that I've submitted emails to, I have submitted to this board. So you can read what I wrote or what I said to them during the board. He or she gets engaged in transparency. Interestingly, these are exactly what I deal with every day because of Weir, Hauser, and Conway, not the other way around. Anything I've ever said has been made in truth and not in an attempt to garner support, but an attempt to end the discriminatory and harassing behavior. I am not the poster child for adhering to policies, but I can assure you that I did not intentionally violate them either. I have been scrutinized since 2014 and made to have my professional life under a microscope ever since. I've been walking on eggshells for years, making sure not to make any mistakes or give any reason to anyone to raise an eyebrow or accuse me of wrongdoing. I know that I was not a fan favorite coming to this department, and still today I'm told by new officers, old officers, and even our civilian employees that I am someone who is not worthy of friendship, trust, or conversation. I have lived a very solitude life here at UPD since day one. There are very few people here who I trust enough to consider friend, and even now those individuals are facing internal affairs investigations for complaints that are not even policy violations due to my complaint against White House Weir. In all actuality, with this accusation from Weir being deemed unfounded by Lieutenant Anderson, has become a form of retaliation towards me for filing an IA for harassment against him. However, my question is when or why will continue to force to be issue and still no resolution, but yeah, I'm allowed to be continually harassed now by this bogus IA for conduct or retaliation against Weir. Where's the proof? I provided mine. He obviously couldn't provide his because it never happened. If I have ever done anything to Weir, Hauser, or Conway that violated policy, I'd be the first one to own it and willingly receive my punishment. So sit idly by and allow them to continue to conspire against me with this nonsense. According to Captain Price, Hauser and Weir have even received disciplinary letters for harassment towards me, yet they continue with no fear of consequences. There seems to be a pass with these violations as long as you're the right person doing it. I've taken the liberty of attaching my response to Lieutenant Anderson with this initial investigation took place because I have no idea after 7 months it will reflect the magnitude of the situation. Thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak to you today, even if it is as a suspect, aka focus officer, and not a victim, which rightfully I am. I truly do appreciate your position and responsibilities with what you've been tasked to support. Respectfully yours, Detective Joy Phillips.
Anything else?
No, I don't even know. Seriously, gentlemen, I have no idea why I'm sitting here in front of you at all. If you could tell me, I would appreciate it, because then we could maybe go into a discussion about it. It's been 158 days of not knowing.
And we realized that there were some issues and time things that weren't followed, and us as a command staff have tried to, I don't know if get ahead of those is the right term, but change the way that we're doing things here to keep this type of thing from happening. But, you know, like I said at the beginning, we're presented a case, these are the charges, evidence or non-evidence, And then this is your time to us. That's really all that we're here to do.
I understand.
So
That's so unfortunate. So sorry. I guess the mystery continues, so.
So what happens from here is we will, as the Captain's Review Board, we will make our decision on the policy violations that were brought against you. Then we in turn give our recommendation to the chief and that's pretty much where it is.
Is it correct in the policy? He can bring me in and I can talk to him because I am a focus officer. Like if he has questions, if he wants to, I might be allowed to talk
I
to
don't know
him.
if it's specifically in there, but I can tell you in the past, I know Chief Snyder made it a point to do that. I don't know if Chief the same thing. I would almost guarantee that if you must have that he would grant that. You know, not speaking for him, but
I've heard he's been at me a few times, but I was as a victim and not as. What's the number of this? Maybe you might be right.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't speak for him, but all I can tell you is our process and where it goes from here and what we do. And that's the part I know.
I appreciate it, and I apologize that you guys even have to do this. Seriously, I looked to nip this in the bud at the beginning of all of it. I believe communication is everything. And Captain Warren and I talked quite extensively about the importance of communication, especially with being a negotiator. You know, that's important to me. Everything. And unfortunately, I think that a lot of people don't take me well because I am so outspoken and very upfront and very forward. That unfortunately is who I am. I have asked, what am I doing? What is it? Tell me. You know, at least give me something so I know what I need to do to turn these things. Because as long as I'm allowed, I want to stay in CID. That's where I want to be. I don't see any potential for growth for me here. I do. It's unfortunate, but I just don't. I wish, but I am at least content where I am. I did have a meeting recently with Chief Seymour, and he asked me what my goals were, and I said, you know, I'd like to be something change, you know, for the betterment of our department, because there's so many things that I live every day seeing it, like this, for example, and such an easy fix, you know, it really is. But that's why I'm kind of hoping you guys are the ones to affect this change, because I got 12 more years, and I love this department. I'm going to tell you that right now. I just hate who I'm forced to work with, and it's not a word I use lightly, actually. And it's not because I just hate them and it's without cause. It's because they made me. I don't generally hate anybody. Well, most of the time excuse me for cussing, but most of the time I'm indifferent to people, and I think that's worse than hate. But over the last few months, I've just so much just hate in my heart, and I don't want to be that person. Gentlemen, what you just heard there was the Captain Review Board, and at the time, the Captain Review Board was new.
Date?
That date was 2/19 of 2020, I believe. Camera. The date is 2/19 of 2021, sir.
Exhibit is 51.
The exhibit, my direct exhibit is 50. Oh, I'm sorry. The video is 51. The document is 20. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And we would move that exhibits 51 and 20 be entered into evidence.
51 and 20 are both received.
So with that Captain Review Board, it was fairly new. It was a new creation to our department. And I was under the impression that it was for moving forward progression, that we were going to try to work out some of the problems that had been occurring, such as unfair discipline. And I thought the Captain Review Board was an integrity-based board. I didn't know that it was a disciplinary board. And I figured that I could appeal to my captains that were sat on that board and that they could affect change, because I brought all the issues of harassment, discrimination, hostile work environment to them. And I had been. But the interesting part is that you're sitting in front of a board and they don't even tell you why you're there. And it's a disciplinary board and you get a day notice to prepare. It's ridiculous. Nobody should have to deal with that. I don't even care if I'm the worst criminal in the world. I should be allowed due justice, due process. This is nuts. I've never seen anything like it. So I'm glad I recorded it because obviously we see the downward slope that I've been on ever since. And here we are. And if I didn't have recordings, I would not be able to show you what happened to me. So
Joy, could you explain to the commission how this relates to your conversation with Denise Hauser?
So this was sort of I don't want to say the beginning of the end. This is just in the first quarter of the downward spiral. After this, I had been continuously making my complaints to my command staff about being harassed. And their response was no response initially. And then they forced me into mediation with my abuser. And I'd like to play audio. It's my exhibit 49. And is it John? I'm sorry, John, thank you. If I could bother you to cue it up from 1 and play it till 18:10, please. Yes, sir. And in this audio, Captain Whitmire, who's still my captain at the time, has called me into his office. And this is the conversation. He is explaining to me that I'm being forced into mediation. And this is after I've made many complaints of my treatment at the hand of this department, the administration, and in particularly Detective Ryan Weir.
The new HR, the complaint you would send out along with IA and we're going to ask that we do mandatory mediation on the 31st of this month at 9 o'clock.
Okay, well, all right. So a few things here that I've been thinking about. I filed a formal complaint and I get you are the only person that acknowledges the receipt of it. IA doesn't, Lieutenant doesn't, Sergeants don't, and I don't hear anything at all whatsoever. It's been almost, let's see here, in 6 days, it will be a month. So per policy, it should have been addressed. I should have been talked to. I should have been interviewed. It should have gone somewhere per electrical policies. So then I did a lot of thinking the last almost month now that this has been going down. And actually I was going to write another report because I didn't receive a 2-week update. I didn't receive anything for an extension, saying that they needed more time. I haven't been contacted, including I not even like saying, hey, I really received this, okay? So HR got it too, because I responded to them, and that's how I found out that Elizabeth wasn't doing HR anymore, that Wayne Bieloff was. So they even responded to me, but no one else did besides you. So I'm a little disheartened, not understanding that Ryan Weir files, Ryan Weir and Bright files a complaint on me, and their complaint gets looked at and evaluated by IA and then goes to HR and city legal. And it actually gets movement, people contacting them, letting them know. I file a complaint and nothing. And on another note, I've been in front of a captain's review board twice now because of Ryan Weir's bogus complaints made against me to internal affairs. He has yet to go to one. And I've lobbied, I don't even know how many now. So like now you're mandating me to go to mediation with Ryan Weir when I want something done about him. Mediation is not going to fix this. It's not. And I don't understand why when he complained on me, he and Susan complained on me. How Susan was able to file a complaint against me. She wasn't even there. And why it went to city legal, and then because that doesn't make any sense. It's not a criminal offense. And the only other IA that has gone in front of city legal, according to my FOP representative, was Brian Moore's sexual harassment one, which is criminal offense, which is what they said is the reason why it would go to city legal. I have no explanation as to why mine went to city legal. So now I'm feeling really discriminated against because he files a bogus complaint on me again, and it goes all the way up to city legal. I file a complaint because it's never been dealt with ever.
It's never been dealt with. Ryan Weir has never been dealt with. And during that whole debacle with the building cameras and all that stuff prior to you being in an IA, it was caught on camera. Carl Conway caught a day suspension for 46 policy violations. Nothing happened to Ryan Weir and nothing happened to Scott Hauser in that debacle. So he's never faced a captain review board, but I've faced 2 of them because of him. And one captain review board, they didn't even tell me what I did or what the accusation was. So, like, I don't understand how this administration thinks that they can mandate me to go sit in a room with that guy, okay? When, I'll be honest with you, you want to talk about feeling that I'm being headhunted, targeted, and being forced out, I've never felt more so in my entire life. And not cared about to any degree where even my own command staff doesn't have the fucking enough respect to contact me and say, yeah, Joy, we got your complaint. You tell me, how would you react on the day-to-day being expected to come in here, deal with this dude who you guys don't deal with? He's your friend, okay? You go talk to that guy every single day. The assistant chief was in there bullshitting with him. You guys don't deal with him at all. You never thought to, I don't know, pull him in and say, leave her alone. Stop harassing her. Stop trying to build your little army against her. You've never done that. But you bring me in and tell me I can't talk about him and Susan's lady parts, which I've never discussed Susan's lady parts. And now...
Havoc, this is just a recording of hers from a previous encounter with a meeting she's having. She's not actually testifying right here.
Being forced into mediation. No. No. You're going to force me in with that guy who's been steady harassing me for 6 years. You guys have done nothing to him. No. I want something done about Ryan Weir. They asked me to move my desk. Michael Miller said that shit to me just last week, or this week, actually, this week, to consider moving my desk. Why is he still here? Why haven't you done anything about him? Why are you still making me work around him? How come it took, I don't even fucking how many days, almost a month, for you to pull me in, and you pull me in and you tell me to my face that you're mandating me to go to mediation with this guy on the 31st, but haven't acknowledged anything that I've been put through for the past 6 years. Remedy me that one. Because now that it's with city legal, I've already called my lawyer. You leave me no other option but to call my lawyer because I don't know what else to do. You give it to city legal. Why? No idea. But from the sound of it from Jason Ray, I'm the only officer besides Brian Moore who's had a complaint taken to city legal. So I'm feeling a little upset about that. And I don't understand why Brian Weir is still allowed to harass me. And you guys don't do shit about it. That's what I'm willing to discuss. I'm willing to discuss the quick and timely and swift removal of Ryan Weir from CID. That's what I'll mediate. Because that shit should have happened a long time ago. And I don't understand why I'm being subjected to it. And why I have to deal with it. And he's still allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Do you want answers to any of those?
Yeah, all of them.
So there was a lot there. The complaint that they initially filed, just because they write the word complaint on it, doesn't make it a complaint. So saying formal complaint doesn't make it a policy violation. Part of the reason things got reviewed by city legal was not because this department sent it to city legal. It's because if there's a claim of hostile work environment or sexual harassment, per policy needs to be reviewed by HR. If HR calls city legal in to look at it, that's not us. That's if someone says sexual harassment, HR is made aware of it and they're read into it.
Lenny, I do believe what famously posted just before your question is your answer. my friend. If I'm not mistaken, right? Famously, the link you posted is the guy that spent 15 years behind bars.
Well, there's several of them, but
Keith Cooper.
yeah, Christopher
That's
Parrish,
yeah.
Andy Royer, Iris Seabolt, Pink Robinson, I think is a case. There's a bunch.
Which one are you referencing, Lenny? We'll let it play.
Replying to something that came up in the comments about something going on, like with one of them cases I was posting.
Yeah, we'll keep playing the video, and if any of you in the chat know the answer to what Lenny's referencing, go ahead and feel free to respond to it. We're going to keep going.
Why didn't mine ever go to HR then?
The recent one you did?
The very first one with the whole Hauser debacle and everything else.
I don't know if it did, and they didn't elect not to be involved in it. That doesn't mean that it goes to HR in the sense that it gets handed off to HR to handle. The policy reads that any of you made aware of it. And then there's a conversation between this department and HR on whether their involvement is comes to the interview, whether their involvement is, okay, let me know how it goes, or their involvement is, hey, we're going to mandate mediation. It's not us picking and choosing, like, hey, this one needs to be seen, let's take this one to city legal. Let's not. It's sexual harassment, hostile work environment. HR, here's the nature of the complaint. Just for your review.
Okay, so at what point in time are you guys gonna take the complaints that I make to be legitimate? The filing an IA because you're emotionally distressed because you harassed me and got caught, that's retaliatory. That's literally written in. If you get an IA and you file an IA against somebody for something else, that's retaliatory, and nothing got done about it. And I wasn't even told. I got a day notice that I'm facing a customer review board for an IA I wasn't even knowledgeable to being involved in. And this guy has got nothing.
I'm assuming, I don't know all the background, but there's a choice to go to the captain's review board, and most people don't go. So just because he hasn't been to one doesn't mean that he hasn't got the letter. I almost guarantee he's got a letter that his stuff was going to the captain's board. He just elected not to go. You don't
doubt that, because then Hauser would have got one too.
Maybe after the investigation, there was nothing founded against Hauser.
I don't know how that couldn't be.
I
It was
don't.
all caught on tape, and I've seen the tape.
I don't know.
My thing is this: at what point in time? You really think mediation? The dude straight out said that this will never be fixed because of him. He's never going to fix it. He's never going to want to fix it. Okay. I have done nothing to that dude. I don't whisper in his direction. Okay. I don't say two fucking things to that guy. In fact, I've even fucking helped his ass out on his cases. Okay. Without being asked to do so, just to do it. And the guy hates me. There's no fixing that. And he's going to continue to do this bullshit. I'm literally just sitting around waiting for my next IA. For what? Fuck, I don't know. I'm sure as hell not going to hear about it until the end when they tell me what they're going to make me do.
All I can tell you about this current situation is that the complaint was filed. It wasn't an IA. It didn't rise the level of IA. There wasn't a policy violation. It was concerns that they had that didn't match policy violations, but the nature of it meant that it had to be reviewed by HR. HR reviewed it. They elected to pull city legal in. I'm assuming because there was an interim HR person and they wanted some more background or some more knowledge. We talked about this. There was an initial date set for mediation between city legal and HR. And during that was set up, it was learned that there was a new HR person coming in. In that time, you filed a complaint. I reviewed it, saying it's not an IA investigation, but it was forwarded to HR.
How is it not an IA?
The new HR person, because my understanding is that it's all been addressed before. It's all been handled.
Never been addressed.
Well, and that's the feeling you have. That's okay.
It's not a feeling. It's a no.
HR reviews that other complaint. The new HR person comes and reviews the complaint, and they set the mediation date for the 31st at 9 a.m. I got the email yesterday.
And just for reference here, when we I know you guys don't like mainstream media, but ABC 57 is the only one that's even covering some of this shit. So we give them a little bit of a pass because they, helped expose the Wolverines and a lot of the other shit. So you see the link that I have highlighted there. It's ABC 57 News. And that's who gives us has put a lot of this out there. So that's why we share their links here.
9 a.m. on the 31st. I'll get to the location. If you have any questions, I can help answer that.
No, I'll be calling my lawyer. And you guys will continue to leave me in the situation, hostile work environment, with the guy who's actively pursuing other detectives to turn against me. Continuously. It's not good. It's not good. I have very thick skin, and I've been very decent. And now I'm tired. I'm very tired, and this is ridiculous.
You're not going to go to the mediation?
Oh, if my lawyer tells me I don't have to go, I'm not going. Why would I go?
Well,
Where's that in policy that I have to go?
I'll wait until you talk to your attorney, and just to give you some time. I understand you're angry.
I'm not.
I want to give you some time. I would suggest you go, but if you're not going to go,
I want to know where it says in policy that I have to go. Where does it say I have to go? Where does that?
The PD's giving you a direct order, much like, hey, Joy, you need to work this case, or hey, Joy, you need to go here and do this. It's along those lines.
No, it is
Work time.
not. You're putting me in a room once again with a guy that I don't feel safe around. He's obviously creepy, obsessive, and you guys have never done anything about it. Why is he obsessed with me? I have no idea. I haven't said two things to that dude.
Are you going to go to the mediation?
I'm going to call my lawyer. Because I don't know why in the world you guys would think that you could force me into a room with a guy who's been harassing me for 6 years and you've been allowing it to happen.
Okay. When do you plan on contact?
Oh, that's not a text.
Okay.
And the direct order is for things that are legal, moral, and ethical. This is definitely not.
It continues. I'm just going to save some time. Obviously, I'm under a time constraint. But for the record, I did submit prior to being pulled in and mediated or made mandatory mediation with Ryan Weir. I had submitted an email to my command staff, all of my command staff, explaining the level of harassment and the reasoning why I did not feel comfortable. And it's actually titled official complaint. So when I'm told by my captain that it wasn't deemed to be an official complaint, what options am I left with? We have a lexible policy and procedure that's put in place. We have a collective bargaining agreement that's put in place. These are supposed to be steps that are supposed to protect police officers. And it's their assessment of whether or not they deem it to be a complaint or a grievance or a policy violation. So if I can't even be protected, and as of yesterday through testimony, the last 2 days, you heard that I'm not even afforded an interview, when I don't think that that's even a question in any of the collective bargaining agreement or Lexipol policies, that I wouldn't not be interviewed. That's the very essence of being a police officer, especially being a police detective. We conduct interviews. If we didn't, could you imagine if we just falsely accused our community of crimes and we didn't interview them? It would be one wrongful conviction after another. So that's a huge problem for me. As I continued on with all of this, and that's going to be exhibit 32, I think, or 34. I have to look at my list. Will be exhibit 34, my exhibit 34. As things were continuing to happen to me, and I hope you gentlemen can understand, the time between those two videos is a year and approximately 3 months. And if you were to hear my earlier audios, you could tell that I had nothing but respect and the utmost candor for my administration. I believe that they were people, men, that would do the right thing. And as the time progressed and I wasn't listened to and I was victimized repetitively by this administration and the previous administrations, you can tell that my complete character changed. It was frustrating. It was, you wanted to, I mean, I can't even put into words the amount of frustration and the amount of embarrassment to be like, to have the men say that Ryan Weir and I are in domestic, okay, that I'm getting forced into couples therapy. That's embarrassing. And if you don't know who he is and you were to take a look at him, you would be embarrassed too. So the fact that here as a police detective, my job is to protect the community and my own police department can't protect me and won't protect me. I had to record. I had to take these steps to protect myself. And the next evidence is going to be, it's on yours, Conway 1 through 4. And the reason why I broke them into segments is because it's a very long audio and I wanted to spare you because I am on a time constraint. And also between 1 and 2, I protected some information, but you gentlemen have been provided with the full audio so that you can view it outside of the public view.
I'm confused about what we're hearing about that you were provided with. Was I provided with this thing?
You're the one that asked for it during my deposition.
Okay, so I received this audio of a phone call between Detective Phillips and Carl Conway. I believe it was this Monday. This is of a phone call that took place at least 3/4 of a year ago. They were not turned over in discovery. In my opinion, that's a discovery violation. They were not turned over as part of the exhibits. In my opinion, that's another violation of the procedures of this commission. So as well, it is Conway just speaking with absolutely no basis about all sorts of things. So I would object on the basis that these are discovery violations, these are a violation of the procedures of this commission, and the content is totally irrelevant, and there's no way for me to cross-examine Carl Conway because he's not here today.
Ms. Rivera asked for this audio to be sent to her during my deposition. This audio, when she requested discovery, she specifically requested the audio that was recorded while I was at the police department in my official capacity as a police officer. This audio was me in my off time talking to a retired police officer and him informing me of the transgressions against me. This very much so has a lot of bearing on this board hearing. And I implore the board to listen to it. And you will see why Ms. Rivera is going to try to fight to keep it from not being listened to.
Response to the objection.
Yes, Your Honor, this was in fact provided to Ms. Rivera prior to the hearing per her request. I don't believe that it came within the scope of her initial request, as this wasn't something that Joy Phillips recorded at the police department or in the course of her duties, but it was nonetheless provided to Ms. Rivera prior to this hearing.
What's the identifying number for the Conway interview?
Well, I mean, since she asked for it during my deposition, I don't know what number it was assigned.
Need to.
Nancy Wilson was given a copy of this as well. So, I mean, you should have it it's an audio and John has it. But both the board and city legal have been provided a copy with it at the request of Ms. Rivera.
Objection's overruled.
If you could just start with 1, go through 4.
I'll just make clear that I did not request this audio. When I asked her in her deposition regarding whether she had turned over all the recordings that had been required of her in discovery, she said yes. And then I asked if there was anything else that might interest the city. And she said, yeah, I have this one of Carl Conway. And she went on to describe it. And I did at that point ask her to turn it over to me. I never asked her to turn it over to the Police Merit Commission or anybody else. Thanks.
Well, I'm not going to communicate with city legal without my attorney and the board being informed. So when things get sent over to city legal, sometimes they come up missing.
Isn't that one of the reasons that we as cop watchers say we're recording? Is because of missing footage or redacted footage or whatever?
Absolutely.
And she just confirmed that our reasons for doing it are legit.
Corrupted files, damaged discs, all that.
Yeah. No. I just wanted to interject that real quick because this is a cop fighting dirty cops, validating our reason for recording cops as being legitimate.
Wow.
Question.
Yes.
He's going to play the audio, Jeff. First Conway, and then just keep going.
How long is this?
It's very short. Well, it's not very short. They're segments, but they're short segments.
I will tell you this, I give my word, I'm not gonna say who, was not weird. Another detective came and dropped a piece of paper on my desk, and I go, he goes, you might want this too. And I go, what's that? And there literally was a 2 or 3 week, maybe even a month long journal.
Oh yeah, no, and I knew, yeah. No, I knew that they were keeping tabs on me, but that was about times I was having the conversations out in the garage.
But you know what the thing is, I will tell you though, and I'll be very honest with you. I'll tell you, and
Are they here?
I'm not gonna give a name, but I will tell you, it is not any detectives you think it is. It's actually detectives that you associate with.
Well, yeah.
I will tell you.
Well, I don't. So let's just say, like, that's what I'm fine with. I don't like. Yeah, I don't care about that stuff. The part that, well, none of them are my friends. I'll tell you that right now. I know that. None of them are my friends.
I mean, as far as the detectives you had conflicts with, it was none of the detectives you ever had conflicts with.
No, I just figured it would be Johnson. If that was gonna.
No. Boy, I'll tell you, I got no news for him. Just please don't ever tell him. It was Clay's.
Oh, that's not shocking though. But Casey wasn't there then. In that time. Oh God, you're taking
No. It wasn't that day. It was the times leading up that he dropped it off and said there was he had dates going back almost all the way like weeks. Then on these days she left at this time. He dropped on my desk because that's back when we still kind of had the common area, and he was over there in that common area. We haven't migrated offices yet.
Oh, yeah, well, no, like I said, I'm not worried about it. I mean, Casey's the one that told me all his own dirt, and stuff that he's been going through, like the hinky thing. Casey's the one that told me about Andy Whitmire sweeping under the rug, So, I mean, I was fully aware of that. And I think it was one of the patrol guys is the one that told me that you didn't even serve your suspension, but they also told me that Moore didn't serve his 3-day suspension either. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, man, and then so, I don't know. I just think it's just.
But see, that's how they do things. Take one for the team type shit.
Yeah, so they could get away with not even having it on a record. That's ridiculous.
Oh no, it's still on the record. But the thing is, you'll just never take the day. It was still on my record. I just never took the day because the reason why Moore did, they did it to appease Taryn.
Right.
Because so what happened with Taryn is that when they were trying to go after Taryn and all that stuff. They're like, listen, and they started talking about their inconsistencies. And Taryn, the deal with Moore wasn't a quickie fucking deal. Taryn had been complaining about that for a long time, and they kept blowing. Yeah. So what it is, everyone's misrepresented that whole deal. With Taryn, what it was is when Taryn was working for Moore as his lieutenant, Taryn, from what I understand.
Go to number 2. That's to protect some private information, but it is on the full recording, which you have. Number 2, please, John.
And Moore had been actively soliciting her to send him pictures.
I'm going to object at this point.
Photos.
These
Actively
are
soliciting photos is what you missed.
These are unsubstantiated allegations. She doesn't know anything about this investigation. There's no basis of knowledge that Lieutenant Conway has. This is ridiculous that we're listening to these allegations. She's just sullying the reputation of all these other officers. And they're not here to defend themselves. This is just totally irrelevant to the charges in front of Detective Phillips today.
My integrity is being questioned.
Your Honor, this is an authentic conversation between Ms. Phillips and a
My former
person
supervisor.
named in the charges. Carl Conway is named in the charges, and this is a conversation that has bearing on selective enforcement.
This is also
Yeah,
part of
she's
the audio.
named- Conway is named in the charges affecting Detective Phillips.
Yes, sir.
Where is that?
In the audio that Ms. Rivera provided over the Seymour calling Vicki Becker about whether or not I would be considered a Brady Cup like Carl Conway.
Those aren't the charges. That's an exhibit.
My integrity is being questioned by Vicki Becker, who's saying that I'm now a Brady cop.
At this point, I fail to see the relevance of these audios.
Number 13, that Vicki Becker stated that based on her summary in her letter, that my reputation for dishonesty has been proven. And in this audio, if you permit it to continue, you will see that he was told by the administration to monitor me as my lieutenant, to monitor me, and he wasn't the only one. And that there is a hard pass, and also speaks on corruption by the prosecutor's office in charging individuals. So I implore you to continue.
I would respond that Conway's credibility has already been brought into question through Vicki Becker's testimony and on a recording that Detective Phillips submitted to us with a conversation with Jason Ray and Chief Seymour. She herself says, well, now we can all agree that he's a Brady cop. So even Detective Phillips admits that Conway's credibility is a huge concern. So why we would listen to random allegations of his when we're here to talk about the charges in front of Detective Phillips makes no sense to me.
But the Court of Appeals came down and they didn't list him as a Brady cop. And Vicki Becker yesterday stated on record that she was asked to write a letter about him and she refused. She didn't feel comfortable with it, but she felt the need, based on nothing, to write a letter about me. The State of Appeals wrote, the Court of Appeals wrote that he was a Brady cop and sent a victim to prison on a homicide, wrongfully convicted, turned over, and that he didn't get a Brady letter and was allowed to remain a police officer for 6 more months, okay? Even after they had issues of his credibility because of what he did to me and what he was told to do to me by the administration, by Chris Seymour. And I have that on this recording. And now they want to call me a Brady cop. They want to end my career and call my integrity into question with no basis.
I'm still not sure how this ties into the charges that are pending in this hearing.
Well, Carl Conway is referenced in in one of the charges regarding her is charge 10. Carl Conway is referenced in charge 10 when in the conversation with Chief Seymour when there's some allegation about the truthfulness of Ms. Phillips' statements to Chief Seymour, and Carl Conway is part of that conversation.
He's also part of a conversation between Andy Whitmire and I when he's fielding my grievance. He's been referenced throughout my process, and they've made reference to him as far as Brady goes in comparison to me. And like I stated, this audio also contains corruption at the prosecutor level with charging individuals. So once again, I implore you to continue to listen to it.
I would just respond that the fact that Carl Conway's name is mentioned does not mean that all his thoughts on the transgressions of other officers are relevant or credible in any way.
I agree with that. So we'll suspend the Conway statements.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Julie.
Is that a question?
Good morning.
I think she's asking if she can hear, if we can hear. Go ahead.
Next question.
Joy, I'd like to direct your attention to the first charge, which states that you testified that you made the statement that Sergeant Hauser was made to write you up.
Yes, I cleaned the audio
Okay.
up. If you could play the Supervisory Council Denise audio, it's a snippet. Hopefully you gentlemen can hear it more clearly. It's on that flash drive. It's the Hauser's supervisory counseling.
And I'm not trying to talk about it. I just want to say I'm sorry if you were offended by anything yesterday. I got excited. I didn't even know it. And then
The audio here said that.
and it's just like,
Hey, famously, do you know who that Gene is up there?
No, I don't.
She's got to be part of the Merit Commission, I would imagine.
They aren't very good at their IT stuff, that's for sure.
No. You'll remember this IT staff came in after the little faux pas that they had of the week-long live stream that they left open, that we covered a good chunk of that too several months
Yeah,
back.
these are two different counties, but yeah, some of the same IT guys went to South Bend.
Yeah. So we're not really sure who Jean is, but she's a part of the commission somehow. Might have to dig that up and find out who she is.
the hits are coming and I don't know how to stop this. Like, I don't know what I need to do to stop it. And I'm asking the, like, women, like, if you just want me to leave JD, like, would that make it easier for you guys to keep coming up with these, like, fake IAs on me? And he's like, nobody does it money. And I'm like, you know what, that's a mistake there. And you're making it really hard to say, and you continuously house it on. And I guess I understand, like, what you say, you didn't have a choice. And I get that, in a sense. And I know it's not easy for either one of us as women here, so let's get it. It's hard, and I don't have a leg to stand on. And I just, like, I'll be honest with you, yesterday I broke down and I was crying, and I never cry. And I cried all night. Like, I like being calm, I do. I mean, if I had to stop, I could do that, you know? But we are 100% dependent on my check. And that's all I do these ones. So here is because I'm made to be here. And Justin, like, pep talks me all the time. Like, you can't do it, you can't quit, you can't quit. And, like, I want to. I love, you know? The salary, the jobs that are opportunity are
Yeah,
not.
this isn't any better.
No. So I can't afford to leave because my kids suffer. And, you know, as moms, you understand that. And so, like, look at those colleges, and then I got hit by yesterday and not prepared for it. I'll leave no the problem. Or I offended anybody or whatever. I'm being accused of lying. I'm being accused of falsifying documentation. Like, horrible offenses, like 9 different policies that I'm supposed to be committed and not abide with any of it. So, like, yesterday when I got pulled in, I was completely in the light. I did not even see it coming, which is really shocking to me. Generally know that I'm going to get in trouble, you know? Or like I earn it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm aware. Yeah. And so I will tell you that the thing with me is very minor. Well, he told me this whole thing, and he said you felt disrespected. He didn't understand. He said he's going to try to get the hard copy of the complaint. He said, like, he can tell me what exactly who said what, because when you said that falsified documentation and misrepresented facts, he's not telling me who is making that accusation name. And I'm like, oh my God, like, Andy, that's like criminal. No, and you're like questioning me. I can't. I can live in my gut. So it's not. I thought his hand was that he gave me the keys. I said, and I said, oh, my name is supposed to be a secret account.
So I know that,
Let me
yes, not helpful.
observe that the audio was mostly unintelligible. Do you have a transcript of that?
I don't have a transcript. I have it written out actually that I wrote out, but not an official transcript as sent off. But I implore you to listen to it maybe while you're sitting there on your computer, because this over here with the speaker system, it's not good. But if I were to play it to you off my phone, you could probably hear it clearly. But in it, she states that the thing with her was minor and that it was supposed to only be a supervisorial counseling. So the question I had for her was, how did it become a benchmark complaint, a written complaint? And at the hearing, she stated that she needed assistance with writing it. And that's what she meant when she told me that she was told or made to write me up. And I find that very hard to believe, because at the time, Sergeant Hauser had been a sergeant for 8 years. And she, knew the computer system. She was a sergeant back in the lab, which of course she's well-versed in computers. And also there had been a lot of things that she was trained in, with 3D imaging and computer systems. So when she came to the hearing and she testified that the made to write me up was in the form of needing assistance in how to put it into the computer, it's very doubtful. That's not the inclination that she gave me. It was the fact that she was told to write me up because they needed a paper trail in which to bring me now here in front of you.
Joy?
Sir.
When you testified that Denise Hauser apologized to you and told you that she was made to write the complaint and not tell you about it, is that your best recollection of the conversation that you had at the time?
Yes.
Did you believe your statement to be true at the time you made it?
Yes.
If if Ms. Hauser were to have a slightly different recollection of that same conversation of which you were both participants, would that mean that you were lying about your own recollection about the conversation?
Yes. Just because she said I lied doesn't mean that I lied.
Was that the truth as you understood it at the time you testified?
That was the truth.
Let's move on to count 2, which concerns your conversation with Dustin Young on July 12th. When Dustin Young called you to ask you to come in and informed you about the facts of the Bees 3 suspected burglary, what information was missing that you thought was necessary for a detective to have to come in?
So we've listened to the audio, I don't know how many times, and I would play it again if we need to, but I don't want to use up my time playing audio of Sergeant Young. But in the audio, what most people don't seem to understand is at no time did he provide me with any names. And in fact, at that time, he actually had the wrong names of the occupants in the vehicle.
Could you tell the commission why those names are important?
Well, positive identification of who we're dealing with to see if there's any kind of prior history with them, or if we know who they are, or they're people that we're actively looking for. It's important to know who our subjects are.
As you were asking for Sergeant Young for this information, what did he do?
So Sergeant Young, you could tell, was overly emotional, and this isn't the first time that I've had to deal with it. And he seemed overwhelmed. So I was asking him questions to try to be able to ascertain if I could try to help him in some manner. What isn't known is that he had already explained that the FACT team was there, the reconstruction team, and FACT team will handle the crash investigation. That is not something that a CID detective would handle. So that's not in the scope of what I do. And then Mike Van Schoik is an evidence technician. That's not what I do. I'm not an evidence technician, so I don't have the proper tools in which to collect and preserve evidence. But he was the reporting officer to the business. So if a burglary needed to be checked, with pictures taken or fingerprints, he was capable of doing that. When he explained to me that both the occupants of the vehicle were at the hospital, they're most likely medicated. And I'm not going to interview people that are medicated because of, obviously it's not right. And so when he explained to me that he had officers at the hospital, I said, okay, what can I do to help you? And I asked him if he had any witnesses. He said, no. I said, are there any surveillance cameras? No. Okay, do we have any proof that anything to do with these guys in this car were from this business? And he said, well, she saw the guy and he was the driver. Well, just because she saw him driving away from a business doesn't mean that she saw him inside the business. And at no time did anyone see him or his occupant in the business.
Detective, how did that conversation with Dustin Young end?
As I was asking him questions, he hung up on me.
So could he have still provided information that you needed?
Yeah, yes, he could have just answered the questions without giving me, like, it was unfortunate because you could tell that I was irritating him. And so I was like, listen, I'm just trying to help you out. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna call your supervisor. It was like a threat.
Did you in fact come in and work the B's 3 investigation?
Yes, actually, contrary to Sergeant Roundtree's explanation yesterday, when I contacted Sergeant Roundtree, he told me that he was already pulling up to the scene, that they had inadvertently called him while speaking to me. So he got off the phone with me to talk to Sergeant Young, and I then contacted Sergeant Roundtree back about just a few minutes later because I hadn't heard back from him.
How long after Dustin Young called you did you arrive on the scene?
Well, I didn't go to the scene. I went to the department as I was instructed by my sergeant, and I commenced to starting a photo lineup like I was instructed.
What do the CID on-call guidelines say about questions regarding whether a detective should or should not come in?
They're supposed to be welcomed. If they have questions, they can call the CID detective and we can discuss things to see if there's a chance that a detective might be needed.
Did Detective Young welcome your questions?
Not at all.
Let's talk about those CID guidelines. Is there an exact scientific formula that governs when a detective should come in?
No.
Okay. What are they? Are they just?
It's just a preliminary outline of some incidents that might occur that it would require. And it's kind of the most extreme cases that would require a detective to come in.
Okay. Can reasonable police officers disagree about the circumstances about whether a detective should or should not come in?
Most definitely, especially when they know the officers you're dealing with.
Last few words again.
Especially when you know the officers that you're dealing with.
Still don't get it.
When
Just the last words.
Knowing the officers that I'm dealing with.
Does the fact that one officer might disagree with your interpretation of the CID guidelines mean that your interpretation of the guidelines is a lie?
No, in fact, Sergeant Roundtree agreed with me initially when he went to call Sergeant Young or speak with Sergeant Young. It wasn't a phone call. He was already on scene with him.
I'd like to move to count 3. This is the allegation that you described the accident, the event, the circumstances under which the car wound up in someone's yard upside down as an accident, but Sergeant Roundtree described it as a crime. First of all, could you just briefly say what happened to the car?
So at the time when I was initially contacted, I was told by Sergeant Young that the female, Miss Smith, was following this vehicle as it was proceeding 100 miles an hour through our city limits. And he had not indicated that there was any doors open at the building, that, that we had any witnesses or any surveillance cameras, or that this trunk was open to this Cadillac. So no indicators that this vehicle broke in or the occupants of this vehicle broke into this building, but that this complainant was following this vehicle as it drove 100 miles an hour and then lost control and crashed. And he explained that the crash scene was really big, but he already had reconstruction coming in.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the CID guidelines suggest that a detective comes in if there is a crime with a serious bodily injury.
Correct.
But it doesn't say they come in if there is an accident.
Correct.
Why did you characterize the unfortunate events that happened to the Cadillac as an accident?
Because there was no burglary.
Again, are these CID guidelines a precise scientific formula about which it is simply not possible for reasonable people to disagree, or are they a matter of interpretation?
They're a matter of interpretation.
If someone were an perhaps even a very experienced police officer were to interpret these guidelines and the events that happened to the gold Cadillac as a crime rather than an accident, does that mean that your characterization of it as an accident is a lie?
No.
Based on the information you had on July 12th, 2022, did you believe that what happened to the gold Cadillac was an accident
Correct.
and not a crime?
No, it wasn't learned until days later that it could have actually been charged as a crime, and that's the one we should have been focusing on.
Was your statement made to the best of your knowledge and what you believed to be true at the time you made it?
Correct.
Let's move on to allegation 4. This is the allegation that you said the other detectives investigating the B's 3 burglary refused to write the search warrant. Could you, first of all, just say how many detectives were asked to write the search warrant?
There were 4 of us that were asked.
Were you the first person who was asked?
No.
Did any of the detectives who were asked to write the search warrant wind up writing it?
No, they did not. Ronnie Barron stated that he had started it, but he did not complete it.
Detective, why did you not want to write that search warrant?
It wasn't constitutional. It wasn't legal.
Okay. And could you explain to the commission what is necessary, why that is a problem in writing an affidavit for a search warrant?
Because I have to attest that everything that's in that affidavit is true.
In addition to the facts of the case, what do you have to attest about your own legal conclusion about the existence of probable cause?
That it exists.
Are those affidavits sworn under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Why did it concern you that you might swear that probable cause exists when you had doubts that it existed?
Because when it ends in litigation, it's going to be me.
Based on the testimony that you've heard earlier, and including the videos of Detective Casey Clay and others, do you believe that the other detectives also expressed doubt that probable cause existed at the time, based on the evidence collected at the time you were asked to write the warrant? Did the other officers express similar doubts to the doubts you expressed?
All of them said the exact same thing, that there was not enough probable cause.
Right.
And on the same day.
How do you feel that you were treated differently from the other officers who declined to write that warrant?
Well, interestingly enough, when I was first asked, I explained that it wasn't legal. When I was first asked by Sergeant Roundtree, I explained to him that it didn't hold any legal presence. We didn't have the right to get into the Cadillac. And then he said, no, you will. It was a direct order. You will. And I explained to him that he could not make me do anything illegal, unethical, or immoral. And I wasn't going to write it. It wasn't simply asking me, it was telling me what I was going to do. And then when I said, you can't make me do anything illegal, immoral, or unethical, he said, all right, Payne, you're going to write it. And Payne's like, why am I writing it? And it's actually on his video with Internal Affairs taken December 6, 2022. Every detective admitted that they also explained to Sergeant Roundtree that there was not enough probable cause.
Detective, I'd like to move on to allegation 5, and which is that you mischaracterized Officer Van Scoyg's actions at the B3 building as forcing open the door. First of all, I'd like to ask you, the testimony that you gave on the October 11th hearing, I was also able to observe that an police officer forced the door open in the building in front of a ranking member of the department. So the door wasn't opened by somebody else. That was forced open by one of the officers. At the time you made that statement to the Board of Safety, did you believe that that statement to be true based on the knowledge you had at the time?
Yes.
If someone were to recollect those events differently, would that mean that your testimony?
Hey, I'm gonna pause it right here for just a second. I want to play a short little video that kind of shows the character of these cops. Give me just a second here.
Lobby of the Elkhart police station. Behavior termed inappropriate between police department employees and a female visitor results in 1 firing, 1 resignation, and 4 suspensions. Today, the public gets its first peek at what all the fuss was about. Mark Peterson joins us with the surveillance camera pictures from the lobby. Mark?
Well, we've heard the incident involved inappropriate touching and suggestive photographs. Again, at a very public city-owned place, the lobby of the Elkhart Police Department. Now I've got a chance to see exactly what went on. It all started early Thanksgiving morning when a woman with dark hair, a white shirt, a denim miniskirt, and white boots entered the lobby of the Elkhart Police Department. The entire visit was recorded by 2 separate surveillance cameras, although there was no audio recorded. It's important to note that this woman was not under arrest.
She was just waiting on transportation. I believe she resides in Chicago, so she was waiting on somebody to come pick her up.
At one point, one of the men working the front desk appears to give the woman a drink. The friendly gestures weren't all so innocent. At about 4:04 a.m., the woman steps into a room to the side of the front desk. On the right of your screen, through the open door, you can see inappropriate touching and some apparent picture taking. At one point, it appears the woman's skirt is pulled up to her waist. Around 4:15 a.m., the woman climbs up onto the counter of the front desk. At least 2 of the 3 males behind the desk appear to be taking pictures with camera phones. One even walks into the lobby to snap a picture from behind.
As everybody played their little part, and it was just basically wrong all the way around.
Was she in any way a victim or
She participated, so.
The prosecutor has finished reviewing the video while he concluded the conduct was unbecoming, inappropriate, and otherwise an embarrassment to the department. He did not find any of the conduct to be criminal. Charges will not be filed, meaning this case is now closed.
Happy to close this chapter and move on and get on with regular business. The police department did a good job in policing itself. We apologize that it happened, but it did happen and it was dealt with, and we're moving on.
Again, 2 of the parties involved don't work at the police department anymore. 1 was fired, 1 resigned, 4 others were suspended.
Okay, Mark, why was she?
Oh yeah, that's what we're dealing with here. Is yeah, twerking is a constitutional right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is the moral compass of the people that this lady cop, former cop, I guess now, is dealing with here. This is the kind of things that they see in the back rooms there that gives this lady a little bit more merit. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to say that this lady, Joy Phillips, is completely innocent or anything like that, but it adds merit to her claims. Here we go.
It was a lie?
No.
Now, why did you believe that our Officer Van Scoik forced the door?
He forced the door. It was on video, and he openly admitted to forcing the door. I'm not saying that he did it with malicious intent. I stated a fact, and he also concluded the same fact, that he forced the door open. I actually have an audio, but being that I'm pressed for time, I'm not going to be able to share it with you at this time. But if you reference audio. (16) and watch minute 50 through 1.03. Not right now, John, we're not going to watch it now. You will see the conversation. They showed a snippet of it. City Legal showed a snippet of it, giving the indication that I was somehow being deceitful by asking my coworkers to write a synopsis for me before I went into the Board of Public Safety hearing, to show that collectively, we had all been asked, and collectively, we all said that there was not enough probable cause. And I even went a step further. After I was ordered, Captain Whitmire suggested that we go into Detective Payne's office to call Miss Smith back to see if anything had changed, to see if there was even more evidence that we could get a warrant for this car. And so we all piled into Detective Payne's office. We put her on speakerphone, and she once again stated that there had been no burglary, that nothing had been taken, and that there was no forced entry to the building. And with that, I shrugged my shoulders and I said, see, and that's when Captain Whitmire got in my face and he told me to stop protecting crackheads.
Joy, I'd like to move on to allegation 6, which is that you provided sworn testimony intimating that the consent to the search of the Cadillac and cell phone was invalid. I'd like to go to your Board of Safety testimony on October 11th, 2022. At the time you made that gave that testimony, did you believe it to be true based on the best of your recollection?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, we haven't been given any proof to show otherwise that the Cadillac is owned by Mr. Grant through the discovery. So I still stand behind it.
Could you explain why, let's start with the Cadillac and then move to the cell phone. Why did you think that the consent to the search of the Cadillac was invalid?
Because there was no burglary. There was no crime occurred. Nothing, even the victim or the complainant or the witness, however you want to verbalize it, stated there had been no burglary, nothing was stolen, at no time did she see them inside the building, and that there was no forced entry.
Did you believe that, well, what about the, so you did not believe probable cause existed for a search warrant?
Correct.
But what about a voluntary consent? Why might consent be invalid?
It is if you get the registered owner.
Did you, what concerns did you have about the person who signed that consent being the registered owner?
That they weren't. It just seemed very interesting that you would go through 4 detectives, all 4 of us would say no, and you still felt the need, even after when one detective said, yeah, I'll write it, even though he didn't want to, he was going to write it, you would still feel the need to go drive out to this person's house to try to get consent from somebody that was perpetrating as the owner, or so you thought they were, you said they were.
Did anything suggest to you that the person who signed the consent might not be the owner of the Cadillac?
Well, they're not the registered owner of the vehicle, so, and they don't carry the insurance on the vehicle either.
Let's talk about the cell phone. Is there anything that led you to be concerned that the person who consented to the search of the cell phone was not in fact the owner of the cell phone?
I believe actually Detective Janis references it in his supplemental that the cell phone belongs to a young lady. And if you look at his supplemental, you can see her name, but it's a Miss, I believe, Garber or Graber. And so it's not his cell phone either. Also, wasn't even known. It was known after the course of this that the phone was located behind 1203 Fulton and the accident occurred in front of it. It wasn't even found inside the car. And at no time had I even been told about a cell phone until I was on the phone with Roundtree at the end of leaving Cobus Green, and he said that he's going to get a search warrant for a phone. And I even asked him, where did a phone come from? Where did we get a phone in all of this? And he said, don't worry about it. He never asked me to write a search warrant for a phone. I can tell you that.
Let's move on to allegation 7. This is that you made a sworn statement that this was your 6th or 7th time being brought before a captain review board, but according to the city's records, there were only actually 3 or 4 if you count that one reconvened. In the testimony you gave to the Board of Safety on October 11th, was the number 6 or 7 your best recollection of the truth of the number at the time you made that testimony?
Yes.
Okay.
I can also provide you with dates that I have.
In fact, at the hearing itself, didn't you say you weren't entirely sure that that the number might be slightly different?
I don't recall if I did or not, but I also do have audio of explaining that I suffer from PTSD from being brought in front of so many and being hit with so many different false accusations.
If the records show that the number of Board of Safety, or excuse me, Captain's Review Boards that you attended is slightly different than what you testified, was that an intentional deception on your part?
No.
Is there any reason for you to deliberately misstate the number of Captain's Review Boards for you that you've been before?
No, the number's obscene. Anyway, regardless.
Like to move to allegation 8, which is that in one of your written statements, you said that you had not been advised of issues with your job performance, but according to RMS, there were a couple supervisor counselings. Why did you make that statement?
Because I had audio recording of when Captain Whitmire was the lieutenant of IA, and I had gone into his office and we sat down and looked through the computer together, because I sat through the hearing of John Belmarez and I saw that the city piled up RMS entries that he was unaware of. So I wanted to make sure that that was not going to happen to me. So I recorded him stating that there wasn't anything in my RMS entries. And therefore then at the Board of Public Safety hearing, when Captain Whitmire testified, he also acknowledged that I had nothing in my disciplinary file. I didn't get any disciplinary until I refused to write this illegal search warrant.
Detective, I'd like to move on to allegation 9, which is that you stated in your grievance that Chief Seymour threatened you that if you didn't sign the papers for your suspension, that he would take you before the Captain's Review Board.
Yeah, the interesting part about all of this is the play on words. The word refuse, the word force, it's all a play on words. And they're trying to use my own words against me. They're trying to use them very testimonial, like matter of fact. So taking me in front of the merit board, well, I stand here now in front of the Police Merit Commission. So my assessment was correct. In an email I received from him, he explained to me that my only option was the Police Merit Commission. If I didn't sign the disciplinary accepting his discipline of 3 days suspension for standing my ground and not writing an illegal search warrant, I was going to face a Police Merit Commission. And if I did sign or didn't sign it, that I would have to call upon the Police Merit Commission to hear my grievance. Well, I was stuck because according to the IC definition, unless it's 5 days or more, I don't have a choice to get a hearing in front of the Police Merit Commission. So he has me in a catch-22. If I lay down and accept the 3-day suspension, then that's my acceptance of his discipline to me. Therefore, I would agree or admit fault, but I didn't think it was right.
Do you have the email on which he made this communication to you?
I do.
Okay.
It'll be my Exhibit 24.
Joy, could you please identify Phillips Exhibit 24?
The printout of the email that I received is correspondence between myself and Chief Seymour.
Could you state the date of the email?
Could I see a copy of this email, please?
I believe it said August 22nd. Of 2022.
Thank you.
Joy, could you read to the commission the relevant portion of the email in which Chief Seymour makes the statement that you relied upon?
So he states, the letter with the proposed discipline has not been signed and returned acknowledging what was proposed. Once my office has received that, then you have 48 hours to contact the Police Merit Commission requesting a hearing on the discipline. Once again, I do not bring anybody before the Merit Commission. This is not an option of acceptance of discipline. If someone requests a hearing, that is a responsibility. Otherwise, the proposed discipline will go before the Merit Commission and accept it as communication. He lists an IC definition of 36.8.3.5 if a chief reprimands a member in writing, and it goes on so forth. But in the further communication, it says that I submitted an email on 8/19/22 at approximately 10:47 that I had sent him an email advising that I would not accept the 3-day suspension and ask that you advise the next step. When he had explained that either way, I'm facing a Police Merit Commission. That was the only option I had. Either I accept it and I get a hearing in front of the Police Merit Commission, and if I don't accept it, I get a hearing in front of the Police Merit Commission. So on my recording, you will hear me say, well, I've requested a hearing in front of the Police Merit Commission already. So I guess I'm going to be meeting with both the boards. These are my words, okay? And so I'm sorry that they're going to try to use these words against me, that he's taking me in front of a Police Merit Commission, but I'm here standing in front of you, the Police Merit Commission. So now trying to twist my own words against me as if it's a matter of fact statement that Chief Seymour said, I do not take anybody in front of, when I wrote it in a statement that he took me in front of a Police Merit Commission. That's very well exactly what was going to happen to me. I was going to end up here in a termination hearing.
Joy, did you interpret Chief Seymour's statement in the email that, quote, if someone requests a hearing, that is their responsibility. Otherwise, the proposed discipline will go before the Merit Commission and accepted as a communication, end quote. Did you interpret that sentence as a threat to take you before the Merit Commission?
Either way, I was going in front of the Police Merit Commission.
Respondent would move to admit Exhibit 24 into evidence.
No objection.
24 is received.
Joy, I'd like you to move on to allegation 10, which is that in one of your grievance letters, you wrote that Chief Seymour told you that he spoke to Vicky Becker regarding your discipline, and that Vicky Becker assured him that this would not make you a Brady Giglio officer, but the allegation is that that conversation, in fact, did not transpire that way. First of all, on your statement before the October 25th, 22 meeting of the Board of Safety, that you had this conversation with Chief Becker, Chief Seymour, where he made that assurance. Was that your best recollection of the conversation at the time you made that statement?
Yes.
Did you have any doubt in your mind that you were speaking the truth as best you understood it?
I was speaking the truth.
Okay. All right. Now explain to the commission why you believe he said what he said.
So you only heard a very small part of about a 50-minute video. And in it, you'll actually capture, if you do listen to it, it's Exhibit Seymour, Ray, and I Discipline from August 16, 2022. You'll hear that as I come into his office, I actually thank him for the meeting. I have no idea that it's a disciplinary meeting and that he's going to impose discipline upon me. I was actually grateful that the chief, somebody wanted to talk to me and interview me and listen to anything I had to say. To say that I was, I think I used the word bamboozled probably like 20 times in that entire recording. I am floored. I cannot believe. And then as he says this phone call that he makes to Vicky Becker to inquire about whether or not Carl Conway was a Brady cop. Okay. You can't see it because it's not audio, it's not video recorded. I'm in shock because I can't believe that he's going to impose 3-day discipline on me because I'm speaking the truth. I gave him this packet. Anyone could tell you the door was forced. I didn't lie about the door being forced and that there was no connection. We already knew that by this time, that there was no connection to a burglary because even the complaint stated there had been no burglary. So I didn't understand why I was still getting this discipline. And then Carl Conway was consistently brought up in all the conversations with Captain Whitmire when I was trying to file my grievance. And I didn't understand the reference. Why am I being compared to Carl Conway? Why does he keep gracing my conversations? And when I asked the chief, and that is in the recording that's conveniently left out, which I could play for you, but it's going to eat up all the rest of my time. I said, well, we're not going to go that route, right? And he said, no, that he wasn't going to go the route of naming me a Brady cop, and actually goes, and I actually would like to play it because it states that his idea of Brady isn't the same as Vicky's, and that Vicky has a totally different notion of Brady, and that when the chief, contacted Vicky to inquire about whether or not Carl Conway would be listed as a Brady cop after the Court of Appeals said that he was a liar, and the investigation that he falsified on me, and she said no. I didn't understand why in the world would he be contacting Vicky Becker about me being a Brady cop, and I was confused.
Joy, did you understand the Chief Seymour's phrase, "We're not going to go that route," to mean he was not going to, or that neither he nor Vicky Becker were going to consider you a Brady cop?
The words, "we're not going to go that route," but "we're not going to go that route" are my words, and he says no. Yes, I believe that I was not going to be sanctioned as a Brady cop through the eyes of Vicky Becker.
If Chief Seymour were to have a different interpretation of those words, would that mean that your recollection of the conversation is a lie?
No.
Okay. That's the meaning you took away from the conversation.
Yes.
Which you relayed to the Board of Safety to the best of your recollection.
Correct, and I've also supplied the audio, the complete audio that shows that I was completely confused.
Let's move on to allegation 11. This concerns the body cam footage, which was deleted at your request because it contained a private conversation with your husband. Could you just, since this is a very separate incident from the ones that have been most of the subject of this testimony, could you just set up the scene of events for the members of the commission?
Yes, so I was asked by Sergeant Roundtree to go out to Cobus Green to interview somebody he stated was a witness. And at the time, he didn't know if she was a witness or a witness to the crash or to the burglary. And it was later discovered that she actually was a witness, and she had already been interviewed twice by Sergeant Young prior to me even being asked to go and interview her yet again. When I arrived at Cobus Green, I activated my body-worn camera, as I'm supposed to do on policies. And I approached the door and nobody answered the door. I didn't learn until later it was the wrong address that was given. So I left my business card and I returned to my car and I made a phone call to my husband. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know for some time because my body-worn camera is on a kind of a rigging system on my belt. And since I couldn't feel it vibrating, I didn't know that it was still activated and that it was listening.
Okay. So did the body camera contain footage of a private phone call with your husband?
Yes.
Okay. Did the body cam footage contain, depict you interacting with a witness?
No.
But it does show you knocking on the door.
It shows me knocking on the wrong address, yes.
And getting no.
I would assume it's got a 30-second leeway, like it records 30 seconds before it actually starts recording. So it probably captures me walking up to the door.
Was there anything on that video of evidentiary value?
No, that's the interesting part is I believe that they accused me of having a conversation with my coworkers. And I don't think that they're aware that in policy 422, it actually specifically states that you are not to have or record conversations on your body-worn camera with your coworkers. So I would have been in violation of 422 if they had captured me speaking with my coworkers. And that I don't have the slightest notion of that those conversations are even captured on that body camera.
Joy, can you delete body cam footage yourself?
No, I cannot.
What do you need? You need the permission of a supervisor to do that, don't you?
Correct, a very specific supervisor.
Okay. Did you do that? Did you obtain that permission?
Yes, I have to request it in writing, and then they have to view the part of the video that is in question. And therefore, then they determine whether or not they're going to delete it. And that sergeant in particular actually put a notation in there of why he was deleting it.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Doesn't every officer we ask about their body cam footage say, oh, it can't be deleted? We can't delete it. Another fucking lie. She's exposing a lot more than just Elkhart PD. You guys got to pay attention to little shit like that.
Big picture here.
Yeah, this is way bigger than what y'all think. Let's keep going a little bit longer here. When they take a break, we're gonna end it. So we got a few minutes left here.
I think that the allegation is that you stated in one of your grievances that you reviewed in one of your interviews that you viewed the entire video with the sergeant, but there's computer records indicating that only a minute or two was viewed. Did you view it?
Yes, we viewed the video. They're trying to put a spin on the words, all of it. It's in reference to the phone call. That was the only part that I was concerned with. It contained a private conversation with my husband, and I allowed the sergeant to listen to it. He verified that it was a private conversation with my husband, and he deleted it.
Did you ever convey to IA that you listened to all, however hour long or so of body cam footage was accidentally taken?
I think that they concluded that off the audit, it's like 19 minutes. I don't know if that's factual or not. I don't recall it recording that long, but if it did, then so be it. The conversation obviously wasn't that long. It was a very short conversation. And when we were reviewing it, you can actually see if there's any other kind of communication on the, and forgive me, I'm not very techy. I don't know what it's called, but whether or not you can scrub the video, you can see verbiage. And I'm sure that the majority of that video is probably silence, might have even caught me singing. I don't know, but it contained a private conversation with my husband. And that was what my only concern was.
There's also some suggestion that you were deceptive about where you went after you got to the door and found the witness not there.
Correct. I stated that I was going home. I forgot my bag. I don't carry a purse. I carry a backpack, and I left it at the department. So I had to go to the department, get my backpack, and then head home. It was in my process of going home, but they used the words once again to be deceitful that my going home wasn't me directly from Cobus Green driving straight to my residence in Granger. Well, I'd forgotten my purse for all intents and purposes. And so I went to go pick up my bag and then drive home. It wasn't deceptive. It's the truth. I didn't do anything when I got back to the department that held any merit.
Joy, let's turn to allegation 12.
It's about time to take a break.
Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, wonderful.
So we'll recess for 15-ish minutes. Let's start again at 10 till 11.
We're going to pause it right there. We're going to end this episode. We'll leave it pause right there. Someone send me something I need to watch. What's up here? Okay. I need that in the private chat. I can't bring it up on my. Please and thank you. Give me just a second here, guys. I appreciate y'all watching and following along with this. This is kind of a lengthy story and it's got a lot going on, but yeah.
What's coming up is 4 boys that were convicted, and the prosecutor still tried to legislate from the bench.
You're cutting out really bad, bro. I can hear you. You're just cutting out really bad.
All right. What's coming up is the prosecutor from Elkhart convicted these boys and tried to legislate from the bench on a felony murder charge. This is for the same prosecutor's office and everything else that goes along with it. So,
Really bad roboting.
all right.
We can hear that you're saying something, but it's breaking up real bad. So we got a little 7.5-minute video here from another channel. True Crime Daily is the channel. Got 5.2 million subscribers, but this is the same county. This is Elkhart County, guys. Here we go.
In Elkhart, Indiana. But a foolish and immature decision is about to end in deadly results.
Elkhart 911. Where's your emergency at?
1919 Francis Avenue. I just shot 2 guys.
1919 Francis?
Yes.
Okay, you shot 2 people?
Looking for a deviant rush and some cash. 4 friends break into a house thinking no one is home. Inside, chaos erupts.
Yep, they broke into my house. I'm holding a gun on the people right now.
The boys are unexpectedly greeted by not only the startled homeowner, but by his 9mm pistol.
Stop it, just stop it. Oh, God. I think someone is dead. Please hurry up.
It wouldn't matter how fast cops arrived. One young man was already dead, another wounded. But it was only the beginning, because in an unexpected legal twist, it would be the young boys charged and convicted for murder, though they never pulled the trigger. The tragic story all begins with typical teenage friendships and a typical teenage desire for trouble. 16-year-old Blake Lehman hung out with kids mostly from the neighborhood. 16-year-old Jose, 17-year-old Levi, 18-year-old Anthony, and 21-year-old Denzel.
The boys would hang out after school. Levi just was around a lot more, and then Blake were real close.
The autumn day with the boys started like any other. When Blake got home from school that day early in October, Levi came over. Blake and Levi went down the street and met up with Anthony and Denzel at Jose's house. And like teenagers with too much idle time on their hands, they came up with a less than stellar plan. Reportedly, they decided to break into a nearby home to steal something. The boys were looking to only enter a house where no one was there.
They went to 2 or 3 houses. They knocked on one door, they heard a dog. At the next house, they heard somebody inside. I think there was one other house that there was an issue with. And they weren't interested in a violent confrontation at all.
The next house seemed ideal.
Finally, they came across the house that was directly across the street from where they had been meeting, talking. There was no vehicle in the driveway, no sign that anybody was home. They knocked on the door, nobody answered the door.
Denzel, Anthony, Jose, and Blake decided it was the house to hit. Levi said he wasn't interested and stayed behind.
Evidence was that Denzel Johnson led the group to the house, kicked in the door, and entered first.
While inside the house, the boys quickly realized they were not alone. The homeowner, 54-year-old Rodney Scott, was home, upstairs sleeping. When he woke, it was to the horror of a house full of intruders. Things were about to go horribly wrong.
At some point, Mr. Scott heard something downstairs. He immediately went for his gun, charged down the stairs, and began shooting.
With a hail of bullets coming at them and fear for their lives, the boys ran for cover. Anthony ran out the back door, and the 3 other boys ran into the downstairs bedroom closet.
There was evidence the bullet may have been shot into the closet and struck Denzel while they were already in there hiding. Nevertheless, Blake was shot in the leg, and Denzel sadly died within minutes of being shot.
Homeowner Rodney Scott called 911.
I just shot 2 guys.
Are they in the house?
Yes, they're in the house right now. They're in the closet.
Okay.
Hurry up, please.
Okay, don't hang up. What's your name?
Rodney Scott.
Rodney?
Yeah.
Rodney, put the gun down, okay?
Don't move, brother.
Okay. Rodney?
Get back.
Rodney.
Get back. Brother, ain't you from across the street? Brother, I think you are.
Reportedly, as cops arrived, Jose jumped out of the closed bedroom window and ran. He was caught and arrested soon after. At the station, Jose named the others involved. A warrant was put out for Anthony's arrest and eventually Levi's. The scene here on Francis Avenue was complete and utter chaos. The nearby schools were on lockdown. Rodney Scott's house was cordoned off. The neighborhood as they knew it would be forever changed. Blake's mom, Angie, said when she heard there had been a shooting on the block, she called Blake several times, but got no answer.
I thought my son was dead.
Then she got a call saying Blake had been treated at the hospital for a gunshot wound to the leg. What she heard next shocked her more. He had also been booked into the city jail. When she arrived, it got worse.
They came out there and told me he was being charged with murder. Of course, I lost it. I was instantly sick. A murder charge? No way. You know, it's like, how?
When Angie was finally able to talk with Blake 2 days later, he told her about his heartbreaking last moments with Denzel.
The boys were in the closet together when Denzel took his last breath. He said, all I could do is just hold him, Mom. I know when the police arrived, Blake was like, I'm sorry. Like he was apologizing right away.
When Levi's mom, April, heard what happened, she needed answers.
Levi told me that the boys had asked him to, first of all, join them, and he said he didn't want to have no part of it. And when they did ask him to be a lookout, and he refused to do that. He said next thing he knew, he heard gunshots, and he took off and he ran.
Days later, the police surrounded the house and arrested Levi Sparks for felony murder. When April visited him at the county jail, Levi was a wreck.
Levi was crying. He didn't understand why he was being charged for murder when he didn't do anything. And he was just begging me to get him out.
18-year-old Anthony Sharp Jr., 17-year-old Levi Sparks, 16-year-old Jose Quiros, and 16-year-old Blake Lehman were all booked on felony murder charges. In Indiana and in more than 40 other states, a person can be charged with felony murder if someone dies during or...
Do what?
It's not available on the screen.
I can't understand you, buddy. You're robot and real bad connection.
It says stream unavailable. Stream suspended for policy violation.
Stream not available.
Yeah, that's what it says on when you're on YouTube trying to watch it.
My stream is not available?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Post that link in the comments or something. The video we're playing or whatever.
Well, it's from sharing this video, I guess, huh?
Probably.
What's it say on there? By what?
It says stream unavailable. Stream suspended for policy violation. I don't think they can even see what we're doing right now. So I'll just sit here and twiddle my phone.
Give me a second here, y'all. Stream suspended for policy violations.
Yeah. Weird. Must have revealed too much tonight. Going hard on that info in that chat tonight.
Has it come back yet?
No. Try something with that video we were doing. Weird.
Them motherfuckers, I'm just trying to get some exposed fucking corruption. The fuck?
Wow.
Right, the video was almost over. What the hell?
Maybe take that video down out of your tray or something. Ready or whatever. Try to put a different screen on there. But
That's so stupid, man. Now it's back. I'll just wait here. All right, we're back. So what's that, Doc? You probably deal with that quite a bit. What's that mean, man? Just I wasn't supposed to play that fucking. Anyway, we can't play the rest of the video because YouTube doesn't want corruption out there, so doesn't want it exposed, I guess. That or Crime Watch Daily doesn't want their shit shared. So, is that like a strike then, Matt, or is that they just suspend it because you're playing shit that people don't want shared? Well, I guess that's a good place to end it. Fuck YouTube trying to.
I posted a link for it in there. Sorry, guys.
Run a short about cluttered garages. No, Chopper. Fucking dumbass. This fucker right here. I'll highlight it. Run a short about cluttered garages. Fucking dumbass. I've never seen that before. But here is, I'll post a link to that video. You guys can finish watching it if you want. Go watch it. It'll just give you a little bit more insight of what we're talking about and the level of corruption that we're dealing with here. That's the link to the video we were watching, guys.
The Elkhart 4.
Yeah, the Elkhart 4. Hey, I appreciate everybody coming in. I appreciate your continued support. Big shout out to Famously Unfamous for dropping all that information in the chat. You guys, when you're watching these, please just pay attention to links and information in the chat as well as the video, because it just expands on the video itself and what we're talking about. You can follow those links down all kinds of rabbit holes, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Like, it's just a massive underground maze of rabbit holes. You guys will just be flabbergasted about it. But we're going to go ahead and end for now. Again, big shout out to Famously. Give a few shout outs here. Chopper, Oklahoma, Outlaw, Matt R, Quinn, I think that's how you said that. Indoctrination, I'll be Critter Bones. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night. Much love, peace, and bacon grease. Catch you on the next one, guys.
Thank you for coming in.